All right. Got another podcast episode, and I am joined today by Blake, aka, well, first of all, I'll touch back on it, but dude, your name really drove, it was like a light for a moth, dude. It drove me to you. And as soon as I saw it, I had no idea who you were, anything like that. I just saw the name and I was like, shit, I gotta say something like, how often do you have a guy named Underwater _ hotdog? I was thinking hot dog water, and I was like, that's pretty funny. But yeah, man, Blake, aka Underwater _ hotdog over at Bauer Precision. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man.
Good. Been pretty busy, been pretty crazy, kind of hectic recently, dude.
Yeah, it kind of went flat recently, actually.
Yeah.
The last year and a half was just madness.
Yeah.
But it kind of went flat, and I guess when I say flat, it's compared to what it was.
Sure.
Definitely dropped off.
Yeah. Well, and we'll touch back on that in a little bit and kind of get into more detail and stuff like that, especially kind of the stuff you've been having to deal with over at Bauer Precision. So on top of that, for those who don't know who Bauer Precision is and kind of all that stuff, what all do you do over at Bauer Precision, and who is Bauer Precision?
So we're in Denton, Texas. We're a locally owned and operated shop. We mostly specialize in NFA stuff. So
Gotcha.
Pretty much anything that's not a fud gun is kind of what we do. We really like NFA stuff. That's primarily our deal. We do run an online store as well. We are currently, as of last week, we're the #1 silencer shop dealer in Texas and the #2 in the country. So we sell a lot of cans. That varies up and down. We kind of bounce around in the top few, but yeah, that's primarily what we do is silencers mostly. We try to, our biggest feat that we're known for is keeping higher end parts in stock.
Mm-hmm.
Most stores, they don't sell Geisley, they don't have night stuff, they don't have any of that type of stuff in store. I have mountains of Geisley rails, Geisley triggers, night parts, you name it, we got it. Surefire, muzzle devices, all that stuff that your local fudge shop says, I can order that for you.
Yeah.
We typically have it in stock, ready to roll. So
yeah, and that's and some folks who know me will know that I'm a constant whiner when it comes to my local gun shops and stuff like that. It's unfortunate, but it seems like what you just described, it just seems like there's just always nothing really available, or especially nothing specific like in that. I don't like saying like the higher end, but definitely like, more of a classified feel, because, like you said, Knights, Noveski, all that stuff, it's dude, like, or Unity, like you just said, it's like always someone who has to look it up in some e-catalog, or they don't know what you're referring to. And dude, it's just kind of a headache at times. So it's really cool. And also, having a storefront for that and not just being in an online store. And your website's super clean too, which is like a rarity among like gun shops. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Dude, gun shop places, like if you look on their website, you're having like an aneurysm like halfway through, dude. So
I know it's a DM for price.
Yeah, shit, dude. Or like just some stuff that hasn't been in stock for like 3 years that's still on the site, and they'll have like 3 listings of it, and they've forgotten to take down the old listing of like their prior pricing, whatever. I don't know, dude. So
right.
Oh my god. But yeah, super cool. But yeah, with the NFA stuff and all that, everything, that's a very specific field, and we're definitely gonna get into that. But before we do though, I'm gonna ask you a couple questions, dude. Just something, just take a little something off the edge, like the was it like, have you ever seen that picture of the guy with the cheese stick in his toes, and he's got it like out the door, like out the window of a vehicle, and he's like, just something to take off the edge?
Taking the edge off.
Yeah,
man.
dude, that's exactly what this is going to be about, dude. It's exactly.
It's kind of ironic because I love mozzarella stick,
dude.
My jam.
Me too, man. What's so on that front, what's who makes your favorite mozzarella sticks?
Kind of funny. I have to settle for Sonic, which is pretty trash, but there was a place back where I used to live in Shawnee, Oklahoma, America. Shout out to all my homies in Shawnee that are still stuck there. The place called Paul's Place. It was like a locally owned joint, and they had cheese sticks. They served as an appetizer with shredded cheese on top.
Damn.
And I mean, cheese on cheese, and it was delicious. They were good. So that's
Dude.
probably my favorite, but
Hell yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was gonna say Sonic too, to be honest.
yeah.
I mean, like,
Sonics are good when they're hot and fresh.
yes, yeah,
tough
yeah.
to get them that way.
Yeah, it kind of depends on who's fucking in the damn fryer. Like for some reason they always take a little bit longer too, and so like I don't know, like you said, fucking kind of cold, stiff. It's like just throw them away, dude. Like, what's the point anymore?
I've been known to show up at the night shoots with moxie sticks stuck in my pistol mag pouches. So I'm always ready.
Hell yeah, dude.
Keep that thing on me, man.
Keep that motherfucking thing on me. Dude, hell yeah. Dude, sorry, I was just, I kind of want mozzarella sticks, to be honest with you. So, kind of made me fucking hungry. But yeah, so, okay, very cool. All right, so next, I'll just do a couple, like, just random questions, just something, to let people know when you have a name like Underwater Hot Dog that you've got some good fucking sense of humor, right? So on top of that, what is your least favorite? Damn, dude, I'm trying to think of how to word it. Okay, so what is your least favorite candy? And I had a lot of people say Peeps, but I don't really consider Peeps a candy. I know there's a bunch of what was the one thing that Geisley hosts and sponsors, the Peep Challenge.
Peeps are like styrofoam, right?
Yeah, it's just literally sugar, like really.
I thought you packed boxes with those.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, and then like whenever whoever gets it, it's like it's melted, and then they're like something like fucking blew up. It's like dude, what did you put in here? Like a fucking fire extinguisher? Like did you I don't know. I'm just rambling. But so back to the topic though. Least favorite candy, man. It can be chocolate, it can be like a gummy, whatever. What's the trash? What's trash, dude?
Man, anything that's mint flavored, like peppermint patty, maybe, or like I don't know. Almond joys are pretty nasty.
Yeah, I agree, man. Like, I remember getting like an almond joy, and I was thinking to myself, oh, it's just like a I don't know, like a Snicker bar, but just almond or something like that. Like I took a bite into it and I like straight up vomited. It's disgusting.
It's like a Snicker bar stuffed with like little shreds of
coconut,
like coleslaw.
Yeah,
That's kind of what it's like. You know what I'm saying? Or like little pieces of confetti.
Yeah, like really shitty. Yeah. Yeah,
like
really...
who eats coconut, dude? Besides like Tom Hanks when he's stuck on an island. Like if you're not dying, there's no reason to eat coconut. None.
I agree. I would consider it a D, maybe honestly probably an F tier fruit. It's a fruit, right?
Yeah.
Like
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, like the only thing I know of that I will admit to using is like coconut oil, but you don't even. Yeah. It's not even coconut. It's just the oil.
And you don't taste it at that point.
Yeah, it's like just fucking. It's like the death of a coconut, and you're just using the remnants.
My mom is like really healthy, and she drinks coconut water, and she convinced me to drink it one time. I don't know if you ever had coconut water, but it tastes like if you were to imagine if you liquidized paper. Oh. That's what it tastes like. Like almost like a glue taste. I've never eaten glue, but
if I did, that's exactly what it tastes like. Yeah, I think my mom also drinks coconut water. I've never had it before. Like a lot of people will put it in smoothies and shit like that, but I don't know, dude. I don't know. It's fucking weird.
Yeah. My mom also told me that vanilla yogurt tastes just like vanilla pudding, which was a lie. So it's definitely, coconut is definitely a survival product for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll do one more question, and this will be, I would say, in regards to more of your industry and at Bauer Precision and, all the stuff that you do. But what is the most, I'm trying to think, I don't want to piss anyone off.
That's what we're here for, dude.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Why?
That's true. That's true. Let's see. What is the most repetitive question that you get? That's like a simple, like when I say that too, because I know some people are just can be kind of confused on the process, but like when you are, it's a simple answer. It's like one of those things, like there was something that I would do occasionally to people. And if I was in a really pissy mood, this is what I would do. If someone asked me like a really stupid question that was super easy to find, or, anyone could find it or look it up, I would purposely take time to go into like let me Google that for you. And I would put it in there, and then I would make sure they knew that this is how aggravated you've made me. Like you could have simply done this, but it's worth me pointing it out. So what's let me Google that for you thing that you receive, like firearms related or anything?
So maybe a two-part answer. So
okay.
As far as NFA goes, the biggest thing is like people asking where their stamp is. Like people think that we have this like direct line to the ATF, and they don't understand that the ATF hates us just as much, if not more, than them, and they don't really talk to us. Like they don't really deal with us besides like auditing inspections. Like I can't just pull up my contact for the ATF. Like my emails go to a general mailbox just like everyone else's, and people are like, hey, where's my stamp? And I'm like, I don't know, dude. They don't tell us anything. And they kind of translate that into like bad customer service, that you're just like, don't want to talk to them about it. And it's like, I know it's sad and I know it's tough to hear, but we literally have no control over it. They don't tell us anything. They don't give us updates. They don't give us like breaks. They just like, if you don't get your stamp, like you just don't get it. And if you haven't gotten it yet, you just haven't gotten it yet. Like they don't care, man. And people don't understand that. And so that's a big question we get all the time, is like, well, it's been 300 days and Joe Schmuckatelli that I know got his in 200 days.
Yeah. So
where's mine? And it's like, I don't know, man. I wish I had an answer for you. I would give it to you, but all I know is the ATF's on their own schedule and they don't adhere to any of our rules, and they don't live on our planet. So
yeah, why?
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, and in that regards, like, because I think one misconception is maybe some things change like between different people and sitting at the throne. I don't want to say, I'll say throne. That's kind of funny. But
no, I do. I sit on a throne every day.
Well, no, not you. I'm just saying like, whoever's like, political party is the headway, right? It doesn't really matter. The ATF has always been a kind of a roadblock for stuff like that. And on top of that, I think one misconception is like, one party is going to take away or remove stuff and, support a lot of 2A stuff, when in reality, there's a reason why a lot of stuff doesn't get ever moving, especially in NFA. But, is there any kind of transition? Like, there's not really a difference when like, say someone who is more conservative is the president or Senate or, Congress versus someone like right now where we're dealing with like a triumvirate of trash,
Yeah. So I'll explain it like my ATF agent, our IOI inspector explained it to me. We just had a big audit like 3-4 months ago. And it was when, maybe it wasn't that long ago, but it was when, what's his face? Chipman, the freaking lesbian, Gary Busey looking guy.
Yeah, he does look like Gary Busey.
So when he was up for appointment or whatever, I asked him about it, and they were like, yeah, nobody at the ATF that works like a normal job wants that guy in because he's an extremist. Like, it's pretty apparent that he's extreme one way or the other. And when people like that are in charge of the ATF, it makes their job way harder because people just automatically have this animosity towards them. Like, oh, you're one of Chipman's people. And they don't really think that way. I mean, there's a lot of dudes at the ATF that own guns, and I'm sure there's a lot of dudes at the ATF that hate guns. I mean, it just goes back and forth. But most of those guys, like, when you think about like your average person that works an average job, they don't really care about the big picture of what they're doing unless they're looking to like excel. And then you're talking about government workers who are like on a whole nother level of don't care. And they're just doing what they're supposed to do. They're just processing paperwork. So when you're making their job harder, they're obviously not going to like that guy. But they kind of explained it to me that like 75% of the ATF is just normal people, and then your top like 25% of management is just all politics, just like the rest of it. So yes and no. I mean, like with Biden in office, they've started ramping up inspections again, like their audits, whatever you want to call them. Again, they claim that's because of like the cartel making movements on straw purchases and things of that nature. But I mean, again, you just don't really know what the real answer is if they're just doing it to, like when Clinton was in office, there was a big push for at-home FFLs, like getting rid of at-home people. And then for a long time, there was like no at-home people. And then it kind of turned around. I mean, it's all kind of a weird deal, but another thing too is it depends on who you talk to at the ATF. You'll get a different answer from everybody. So yes and no, kind of, but we don't really know the actual answer to like, okay, they hate guns, so they're trying to, do this, that, and the other, or, the people at the ATF, the people in charge of the ATF, they might be on their own program too, and they hate guns personally, and so they think, it'll help their career, and their political status, and really, the president doesn't really care, but they're using them as a leverage point. As a leverage point because they can, and they know that they're left wing or right wing or whatever.
Yeah,
it's all a whole bunch of freaking
That's unfortunate too, because I mean, again, like you said, it kind of sucks because I know for some people it may be just an occupation, and it's just something that's a day-to-day job and whatever, and then of course, and that's like everywhere too, right? Like, and they get looped in that because, like, I know one guy who worked at the ATF, and I had chatted with him. This was a while back. This was like when I was buying my first suppressor, and just asking him questions and stuff, and making sure I had like everything squared away. Which at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. I just went to the shop and they took care of it. Going through the kiosk, and they, that was like the most streamlined process. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like you said, I mean, I don't know. It's unfortunate that that's kind of what happens, because at the end of the day, they're kind of a needless body. But I don't want to talk about fucking ATF because I know that'll get everyone aggravated, and I know I'm sure it gets you aggravated. I will ask, like, what does an inspection look like? Like when they're coming to audit you, like, are they kind of like super dickheads and they're like really like trying to nitpick and trying to go after you, kind of, or is it just kind of like, all right, just want to see this, and then we'll be out of your hair?
Yeah, so that's another one that's like, it depends on who you get. Yeah. It's all based on who you get. Like, I'll say, like, you're audited by your field office, right? So like your local, like, for instance, we're in Dallas, so like Dallas has a field office, and then like Chicago has a field office or whatever. So you're not dealing with like straight up ATF dudes from West Virginia, or that's where they're at now. But like people from DC or whatever, you're dealing with like local Texas people that live in Texas. So a lot of it depends on who you got. But I mean, we've had inspections where we had like people that were legitimately insane and like demanded like coffee, and they demanded like their own little workspace. And
oh my God,
I mean, technically they're not supposed to do any of that. They're not supposed to disrupt the flow of business, which happens every time anyways. But like, they pretty much come in, they announce themselves, and then they say, we're going to do, like, there's different types of audits. Like, there's a complete audit, and then there's just, we want to check and make sure all your guns are here, or we're just looking at 4473s, or stuff like that. And then obviously if you're doing, you're like building landmines and not telling anybody, like, that's going to be pretty pointed. But for the most part, it's just them, like a bunch of people looking at serial numbers and checking them off a list. And then at the end of it, they give you a list of stuff that's quote unquote missing. That's 99% of the time not actually missing. They just like missed it.
Yeah.
And then you go back through, they'll say like for us, we have a lot of silencers. So they were here for like a week. There's 4 of them, and it's a week time. But like after the first day, like they just come in, it's like they work there. You see them, they come in, obviously they don't come in till 10 and they leave at 3. They're government people. And then they do their thing. And it's just like, you know, after a while you start kind of making jokes with them. But I'm the guy that, you know, I was asking a lot of questions. It's like, but, so to rewind a little bit, when they showed up, so if you're a home-based FFL, they have to notify you. They have to like make an appointment. But if you're a storefront, they can show up whenever they want. So That's what they did. They showed up. So I'm standing in the back like 9:30. And, of course, you know, I support FPC and all those guys. So shout out to them. And also shout out to Superior Defense and Spiritus. So I was wearing their AFT hat.
Oh,
and 4 freaking ATF dudes come in, or dudettes, two women and 2 dudes. And they come in and they're like, you know, they're wearing like polos with the little seal on it. And I'm thinking maybe they're like local, you know, law enforcement or something. And they just he walks in and he's, you know, he got the 511 tactical pants on or whatever. And he's like, hey, how's it going? And I just kind of was like, you know, hey, what's up? And then I turned around and then I was like, wait a second. And I turned back around and I was like, that's ATF, dude. so then he looks at me and he goes, nice hat. And I was like, yeah, thanks. And then the other girl comes in and she's like, oh, did you bring me a hat too? And I was like, oh, this is not going to go well. Like they're not, this is not good. I actually have a selfie like of myself wearing the hat with them like behind me.
That's fucking hilarious.
But yeah, it was super funny and a good time. But anyways, our ATF guy, the lead guy, Mike, whatever his name is, was freaking awesome. Super cool guy, super nice guy. Very easy to get along with. And it's just kind of one of those deals. I mean, you know, we make mistakes on paperwork. People make typos. They forget to put their middle name and you miss it or whatever. And everybody makes mistakes. And there's different people that are out to get people. And then there's people like Mike that are like, hey, you guys are doing what's right. You sell like thousands of suppressors every year and you're not building machine guns and giving them away to people. Like, you know, just as a general consensus, like, you know, you guys are good to go. And and it's like that with every federal agency though. I was in aviation for like 10 years and dealing with the FAA, they're the same way. It's just all based on, you know, who you get. Everybody's different.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it too, because a lot of people at the end of the day, they don't want to cause a stir. They don't want to do anything. They just want to do their job, get out, you know, and be as streamlined as, you know, as possible. And hey, at least, you know, they could, they kind of took it as a joke. You should have taken a picture, like you should have taken a picture with them, like did a good like pose picture.
They wouldn't. I tried. They wouldn't take a picture with me.
That's lame. Like you should like, hey, I'll blur your face out and everything if you want me to. Like, come on now. That's
sick, man.
Yeah, dude. Like, yeah, classify. Yeah. That's pretty. I mean, like, I guess, you know, it's give and take. That's kind of like when I had chatted with Kevin over at Portside, he kind of said the same thing that you know, the guy that his local dude who would come through wasn't, you know, all things considered, obviously, you know, fuck the ATF, but at the same time, you know, he's like, all things considered, guy was pretty good, and he didn't make a trouble, and he wasn't like a pain in the ass, not trying to, you know, nail him on everything, you know, try to thing. But
it's difficult because like some of those people are nice and they're just doing their job and all of that, but at the same time, it's like it's like somebody that's, you know, trafficking humans working for the cartel. Yeah. Like I'm sure some of those people are really nice, but you still support a cause that's like unjust and wrong. So it's tough.
Yeah, it's kind of I don't know. It's like such a weird balance too, because just like you said, you kind of want to like just have like I guess like, you know, I don't want to say decency, but just like, you know, it's just someone doing their job. But at the same time, like you said, it's such a stupid fucking federal organization. It's just like a bloated organization. And then, like you said, the top percent is what really dictates what flow, everything rolls down. So then, that's the public imagery that everyone sees is what happens at the top, unfortunately,
and even if, I was talking to the guys from Silencer Shop yesterday, and even if they made any attempt to like make our lives easier, like, hey, you've got all this bureaucratic red tape, you got all these hoops you got to jump through, but we're going to have this super nice, online portal where you guys can submit your paperwork and get it back in, 24 hours, and we're going to be on top of it. That would be one thing, but it's not. It's like they're low budget. They don't streamline anything. They make it difficult. If you want to talk to them, you have to send them an email, and then they respond by like freaking donkey, and it comes in the mail. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think, and that's the part that just kind of, like you said, it just kind of takes some of that away. It's like even like their website for like Form 1 and stuff like that, dude. It's so fucking archaic. Trash. It's like it was. Well, I mean, good Lord. I mean, I was just gonna say, just stuff like that. It just seems like they're purposely putting zero effort into updating or streamlining. Making things modernized to, get with the times. So
that's another thing that I'll say about, you were asking about like things that I get from customers. So to everybody listening, when you submit a Form 3, if you've ever submitted a Form 1, it's done on the same website, right? So it's just as slow, takes just as long. Like, you click something and then you wait for like a minute, and you pray to God it shows up. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it'll crash. It's just like, you never know. So you're submitting, like, imagine you're me, and you're some idiot, and you're submitting like, 30, 40, 50, sometimes more Form 3s a day. And you're doing it on this freaking caveman website, and you're trying to submit all of these. And then in the meantime, you've got dudes that are like, yeah, I bought a can from so-and-so and it was approved in 3 days and shipped to my dealer. And that's cool. That's great. I mean, that's all more power to those guys. But a lot of times what happens is, when you shop with some guy that's like a at-home dealer or like a super small dealer that doesn't do silencers, they're submitting like 2-3 Form 3s a week, so they can do them through the website super fast. Takes 1 day, they're done, and then you get your stuff back. Whereas with us, you're trying to submit 30 forms a day. It takes a long time, and it drags it out. And sometimes you can't even get them all submitted, depending on what the website looks like that day, because it depends on who's on there. One of my distributors was telling me yesterday, he used to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning and get on eForms just so he could process his forms, because during the day, the website is such trash that you can't get anything through. And people kind of miss that. They're like, I've told people a million times, like, if there was no such thing as the ATF, I'd be a millionaire. I'd sell so many silencers and NFA stuff that, you make your head spin. But because of all of the red tape, you got to stick copies of this and that and everything in the box, and the Form 3s and the Form 1s and the Form 4s, and everything has to be straight. It makes it so difficult. So going back to the small dealer, that's why it's so much faster sometimes for, your friend or whatever. But on top of that, I've submitted like, okay, for instance, Otter Creek Labs, they just came out with the new OCM5. It's the AEM5 clone, and everybody's hot on it. Well, we did a pre-order on it, and I got like, the first pre-order was 10, and then we got 30 more. The first pre-order was 10 of them. I got everybody's FFL and SOT information, and I submitted them all the same day, literally one after the other. They're all serial numbers, like consecutive. I got like 6 of them back the next day, and then the rest of them were like 6 or 7 days. Like, it makes absolutely no sense why things are the way they are, and that's tough for people to understand, and it's tough for us to explain, because like, I've had guys that literally, I just never even got an approval, and they're like, hey, where's my stuff? And I'm like, man, I'm sorry, but I never got an approval. And then I'll cancel that form and resubmit it. Bam, you get an approval the next day. It's just, there's no sense to it, but I can understand that from a customer standpoint of going, okay, yeah, sure, guy, you resubmitted it and you just magically got an approval. But that's really the way it works, unfortunately. But I mean, you can't really blame the customer because they're dealing with the same like frustration that you are. But at the same time, like they don't quite grasp how ridiculous it is. Like their scope of it is, you know, maybe 5 different instances of silencers where yours is, you know, 1,000 a week or whatever. So
yeah, that's unfortunate too. But you know, especially like for like the first time buyer, not knowing kind of the process and stuff. And you're right. I mean, dude, stuff it's super erratic too on the timing and stuff coming back. And you know, just I've formed some lowers before. I've never done a suppressor. I don't know too many of the steps. I was kind of, I don't know, it just didn't seem like it was worth it at that aspect. But you know, having the suppressors that I do have, they've all been super different time frames and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just, you know, and there's always kind of like some misconceptions too, like everything you were just saying, and then people that, you know, read stuff on forums or Reddit or, you know, ARFCOM and stuff like that, and they read these things about time frames and then like, oh, I got mine at this time, it's coming back, which is cool. Like I think it's good to track stuff to kind of get an idea and stuff like that. And same thing, it's like whenever I purchase suppressors before my local FFL, I'll just, you know, I'm like, I'm just out of curiosity, like, you know, what are the times looking like? You know, what kind of turnaround time have you been seeing? You know, and then, you know, they'll say, it's been about 10 months, been about a year, been about 8 months. I'm like, that sucks. So like, okay. And then I just I do my absolute best to just forget about it for about, you know, 8 months, you know?
Yeah. I heard, you know, this guy that works for us, shout out to Brody, go follow his Instagram. He's Downshift Citizen. He'll
Downshift Citizen.
Anyways,
all right.
He said to someone the other day something, and it caught my ear, and I was like, that's actually really true. Someone was like, man, it takes so long. I just can't do it because it takes so long. And he told him, he said, there are tons of people out there that have spent way more money and waited way longer for stuff they never got. And I was like, that's a pretty good point. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, what else are you doing besides dying? Like, you might as well buy a can, and then 8 months from now you can have it. Like, the only thing you're out is the money, and I get that. You know, you spend a bunch of money and you got nothing to show for it. What I used to do when I was a regular dude and wasn't an SLT was I would obviously have the money for it. Like, don't go into debt for silencers. That's dumb. But have the money set aside and put it on a credit card that's no interest, and then pay it off, you know, during your 6 month, 8 month wait. And then when it's all done, like, you kind of spread that money out incrementally rather than, you know, just dumping it all and not having anything to show for it. But it does suck, but it's totally worth it. Once you have a silencer, you never want to shoot without one.
Yep.
And the first can is always the hardest. Once you have one, you at least have something to shoot, like, while you're waiting.
Yeah.
So it's just getting over that first hurdle. It's tough.
Yeah, and like you just said, like that's gonna be my next question for you. Just in general, I'll have my thought, and then I'll see what I'm just curious what you'll say. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first can's always the hardest, and the same thing. I'm the same, dude. I just won't shoot any rifle or anything like that if it doesn't have a suppressor on it. It's just, you know, I don't know. Like it's kind of funny too, because when you think about it, the decibel reduction isn't that much, but at the same time, you know, and its added weight, you know, and its length. But at the end of the day, man, there's just so many different elements that it brings to shooting that makes it so much more, you know, so much more tolerable, a lot more enjoyable, you know, and then also, you know, makes it a lot more enjoyable for everyone around you as well. You know, it's just it makes shooting a lot nicer, which again, it blows my mind that like you were saying, they don't want to try it and like, they don't they want to take the workload off themselves as well and stop doing like, you know, Form 4 stuff, like all in fucking paper. You would think that they would try to transition everything to more of an e-form. And in that case, it'd probably get, you know, I don't know what the revenue is from the tax stamps and how it looks, you know, but I would imagine more people would buy a suppressor next day if they knew that, you know, they could Form 4 or whatever, e-file for something and maybe get it back, you know, within, you know, I don't know. I was getting my Form 1s within basically like 21 business days. But if, you know, if I knew that, you know, or if I know some of the people that knew that, they'd probably be more likely to go buy one, you know. But same thing with the wait times, you know. When people ask me, and the same thing, like I've had a similar response to people, what you just said, and I always will say, like, you know, dude, you know, at the end of the day, if you're going to be saying the same thing a year from now, and if you had just went ahead and bought it right now, and a year from now, you would have it already. Like, you would have it in hand, ready to go, compared to where you're going to be a year from now, you'll be like, damn, man, I'd buy one, but it takes some, you know, like, hey, man, if you keep waiting around, you're never going to get one, you know, just go ahead and, like you said, the credit card, that's actually a pretty good idea. If you know, and that's the same advice for like night vision. Don't go fucking broke with night vision suppressors and stuff like that. but if, you know, I definitely think and we're about to bust into some categories, but maybe hurt some feelings, dude. I'm ready to fucking do it. But
dude, I'm always down to hurt some feelings.
Yeah. But one, like, I think the biggest thing that aggravates me, and I was guilty of it, so I can say this, is buying a bunch of bullshit guns that are basically all the same, and then not investing in like a solid primary rifle. Or, you know, if you're a collector, that's one thing, blah, blah, blah. But when I say that, I mean, like, you literally are depleting like any kind of funding that you can put towards setups. Dude, just get a good solid rifle, get a suppressor, you know, have it set up, you know, how you like, or, you know, what you're wanting, and then go from there. And then you'll have a solid gun. And then if you want to buy other stuff, then you can later on. But at least, like you said, you'll have a suppressor. The first one's always the hardest. And, you know, you can get rocking on it, dude. And then, but, you know, I know a lot of people who will do that. They'll buy like, you know, really cheap guns over and over again. And then they'll be like, yeah, I got 20 AR-15s. It's fine. You know, that's cool, dude, whatever. But don't tell me at the same breath, well, I don't really want to spend that much on a suppressor. And, you know, like, that to me is just kind of silly, I guess. But
yeah, it's all priorities, man. Where I used to live, like, everybody was, for the most part, everybody was a farmer of some sort. Like, they had regular jobs, but everybody had cattle or whatever. And these grown dudes would come to my house and they'd be like, oh, these night vision goggles are so cool, you know, this is so awesome. And they'd be like, well, how much are these? Like, how much money is this? And I would tell them, like, you know, whatever it was, $8,000, $10,000, whatever it was. And they would just, like, it blow their minds. Like, oh man, maybe someday, you know, I'll be rich like you. And it's like, okay, for one, most of you guys make way more money than me, but for two, I drive a 2004 Toyota Tacoma, and you guys are driving an $80,000 Duramax. Like, it's priorities, man. It's all priorities, and everybody's got their priorities shifted differently. And not that they're like wrong or right, but, you know, it's like people that don't want to be house poor or, you know, vehicle poor or whatever. Like, some dudes are driving shanties, but they got the coolest gear in the game. I mean, it's all priorities. But yeah, I think everybody kind of starts out that way. They're like, yeah, guns, I gotta get all the guns I can, you know, get as many guns as I can acquire. Like, my wife's friends and other people that don't know me super well, like, they see my Instagram or they see, you know, what I do regularly, and they're like, man, I don't even, you know, I can't even imagine how many guns you have. Like, you know, I'd like to know how many guns you have. And it's like, I mean, to be honest, right now, say it on the record, I might have like 8 guns, maybe. Like, that's not including like my dad's guns that I inherited. They're still at my mom's, but it's like I don't have that many guns, dude. I have a lot of monetary value in guns, but I don't have that many quantity of guns. Like, I have, like you said, I've got my main rifle that's kind of my main squeeze. I've got a handgun I shoot. I've got like 2 shotguns. One of them was a gift. The other one was like bought on a whim. I'm not a shotgun guy. And then I've got like a couple 22s, and that's it. Like, I don't buy tons of guns just to have tons of guns. And I know there's guys out there that collect stuff, and that dude on Instagram, the gun counter, that guy, he's super funny, but he's also got a lot of really good knowledge as far as like, there's nothing wrong with buying like fun guns or like guns that might be considered kind of stupid or whatever, but you need to have like your main, your main, whatever you want to call it, like your battle gun or your main squeeze that you're going to take with
Sure.
you, shoot with you all the time. And then you can start buying, freaking integrally suppressed, 9mm integrally suppressed 22s, or build a Gordy rifle or whatever it is that you're after. But have your priorities in line.
Yeah. It's such a weird thing too, because the, like this, I want to say industry, but like this, like the hobby, whatever you want to call it, can be so fickle on some stuff too. Kind of sensitive as well. But I mean, you nailed it on the head. I've had that same conversation with several people. Like, oh, I couldn't imagine how much. Oh, I wish I had, dude, that's like one of my least favorite. When people say that to me, that pisses me off so much. So if anyone's listening and they're hearing me, when you say, oh, it'd be nice if I had the big bucks like you, or, like, oh, maybe when I'm making, dude, I hate when people say that. It pisses me off so much. And like you said, dude, I have a lot of farmer friends who have said that shit. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? You have like, I mean, like, it's wild. I'm sitting there, send me a picture of like some couple $100,000 fucking tractor, talking about, oh, gotta work on this, just got this new thing in, it's like, dude, you just spent 200 something fucking K on a damn tractor for no reason, for whatever write off or whatever. But,
all these priorities.
Yeah. I mean, if you just don't want a suppressor, then hey, that's cool, man. That's fine. I'm not trying to tell you what to spend your money on, and at the end of the day, it's your money. Do what you want with it. But I don't want to hear the excuse though. That's my problem. Like, that's when I have like issues, is when people are like, like, well, I don't want to wait such and such time, or I don't know, stuff like that. Or like, I don't have the money, but you've got like 20 fucking 1022 builds, I don't know. Dudes are crazy, dude. Dudes are fucking crazy sometimes. But
you got all those FUD guns.
God, man, dude. Oh, whatever. It's fine. It's whatever. But like you said, priorities. And I know a lot of people that are like that too. Like they just splurge on vehicles, and they'll take on some vehicle, or even like this, like, a lot of people will know that I'm a pretty big stickler when it comes to buying stuff. So like, I normally will always kind of get a baseline. I'll know how much they go for, period. And then I'll just try and look around, find a used deal, or et cetera. And this is just in guns, and pretty much everything that I do is like this when purchasing stuff. But like, I just don't buy the first thing I see at the sticker price. I guess, like, I don't know. That's just me. Like, I'm not gonna be there like trying to hassle, or like, oh, well, would you take $1 off? I'm not gonna do that. But I'm gonna look around and trying to find the best price. I'm just gonna try and find a good price. And I know dudes who will like, oh yeah, I picked one of those such and such up last week for, over MSRP somewhere. And it's like, dude, they don't go, why'd you pay like, they don't go anywhere near that cost. Why would you spend that much money on that? Like, it's just, dude, it's wild, man. It just blows my mind. Dude, shotgun dudes are weird too. I came from that background. So I can say that.
I know a guy, his name is Anthony, and he probably won't listen to this podcast because he's a country bumpkin, but I don't even know if he has internet. So, but Anthony, he's one of the freaking coolest dudes ever. I mean, he'd do anything for you. Great guy, just a good old boy. Mm-hmm. But the guy can shoot a shotgun better than anybody I've ever seen. I mean, he's incredible, like shooting skeet, like shooting birds, like whatever it is. He's incredible. I mean, he'll take your money any day of the week, but he's got like, he's got some shotguns that are like worth more than my truck.
Yeah.
And he's all into shotguns. I mean, he's got like several of them. I mean, he's probably got several $100,000 in shotguns. And I'm like, at the end of the day, it's a shotgun. Like, it's not even like, and they're not even like Benellis, like auto-loading, semi-auto, like gas-operated shotguns. They're just like over-under shotguns or pump shotguns or whatever. And I'm like, it's like the simplest thing ever. It doesn't even have a rifled bore, and you're paying like 35, 40 grand for a couple tubes with a firing pin. Like, crazy, man. And again, I'm I'm one of those people that this is America. More power to you. Do whatever you want with your own money, but I don't get it.
Yeah, and dude,
Crazy.
I've actually shot one of those before. And dude, it's madness, man. It's crazy. And you're right though. It's like some of those like super cut. And dude, you know what about them? The funniest thing about them, normally when they're that expensive too, they're normally custom. They do take like over a year. Like they normally will take 1 to 2 years to be made, and completely custom. Some of them like are just different grades and et cetera, and but I'm the same way. Like I just did a couple autos. I do end up wanting getting a over under at some point. I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to get one, but same thing. It's just, I don't know. It's weird, man. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, we have Benelli's, and I can 100% get behind the quality of that. Like, I totally understand that, and I can see the quality difference in like a standard Mossberg 500 and a Beretta or something to that extent. But I guess I'm just not into shotguns. I mean, it's kind of like motorcycles. I'm just not into it. I respect it. People that like it, it's totally cool. But I just never have like understood the cool factor of motorcycles or shotguns. Like I don't know. There's different strokes for different people, man.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. I kind of came from that background, and the same thing. I'll tell a funny little hunting story. Same thing. I know the guy who I'm going to reference. He'll never listen. But very similar kind of case. And like I came up. I actually started playing airball, or I don't like saying paintball because then people think of like wood ball and woods ball, and people like running around. I played airball, like the competition courses and like the big inflatable Dorito and stuff like that. And that's kind of where I got started a little bit more in shooting sports. I didn't really grow up doing too much of anything. And I just came to a point where it was just such an expensive hobby to compete and play that I ended up just kind of like offloading all my stuff and selling it. And the first thing I got was a automatic shotgun, like every South Carolina hillbilly would, redneck, white trash, what do you even say it? The first thing I got a Remington 1187, and contrary to what a lot of idiots will say, it actually was a pretty damn good gun, and it was a super soft shooting auto. The whole thing was like, okay, I'm going to do something. I want to like get into shooting clays, sporting clays, trap, skeet, and then bird hunting. So it was naturally a pretty good shot as it was. And I actually went, and someone had been really like, really angst on going dove hunting. So I had this guy from my freshman year in college, and they were super hardcore hunters. Like everything is like on a seasonal base. Like they just know, and like that's their fucking life, right? They took me out, and I absolutely showed them out. Like I just blew the doors off of everyone. And like, dude, like they got all like a total combination of like 1 or 2 birds. And I knew as soon as we got there, they put me in the worst spot to be. Like they put me like in just the worst place to shoot, to even like be in a dove hunt. So it's like a big open field, and it's like cut millet and stuff like that, like little grains and stuff. And the worst place, but I ended up almost limiting out, and each one of them only had like 2 birds total out of like 15. And like I remember just walking back afterwards, and they were like, "Oh, how many did you end up with?" And I was like, "Oh, I have like I think it was like 13. I think I said, "Oh, I have 13." 13. I thought you said you didn't hunt, and I was like, "I don't." I was like, "Well, I shoot clay. Sporting clay is a good bet." I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "Well, how'd you guys do?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm good, like 2 or 3." That was the last time they ever took me dove hunting. Funny enough, dude. But yeah, I mean, like that was kind of like my starting point. But I kind of got tired of relying on going hunting, because some of these guys are kind of gatekeepers when it comes to hunting in general. And I was actually talking to a privateer group about this, like this fucking
Derek.
Yeah, Derek. I'll say his name. I think he's been on the podcast, and I've said Derek. So, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind. But yeah, talking with Derek is like there's this huge gatekeeping mentality on some stuff. Even though they tell you need to go out and live off the wild and go hunting, but then no one wants to actually show you or teach you how to hunt and stuff. Funny enough, but yeah, man, like it's kind of weird about that. So that's why I kind of got into the rifle part. But yeah, shotguns are super fucking expensive, especially since most of them don't really update or change. Like the Benelli's, I think, are a good example. Like between Black Eagle 2s and Black Eagle 3s, dude, they're like, what, are they still going for like $1,700, $1,800 still?
Dude, I don't even know, man.
Damn.
I don't even know we don't really sell shotguns much. Like,
Okay.
I don't even know what they cost. We don't really sell them. Like, we'll get some dudes that'll come in and buy them, but it's typically like we'll order them or something.
Mm-hmm.
And Brandon, the owner of Bauer, he'll usually order them and deal with those kind of people. I don't
Those kind of
typically
people.
deal with those dudes. Well, I just mean dudes like
No,
that.
I
Like,
know. I'm just fucking with you.
if I see somebody come in like a sub def shirt or like a privateer shirt, or they're wearing like a forward observations hat or something, I'll kind of gravitate towards them and kind of feel them out and see if they're just some douche who put it off eBay, or if they're somebody that's like legitimately cool. But that's kind of how I've met all the guys that I've met here in DFW, and I won't name them, but you know a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Well, you've had Agans on the podcast.
Yeah.
Hang out with him a lot. I shoot with him a lot. But yeah, that's how I met them, was through Bauer. They all came in one day and they were like, "Man, we didn't know this place existed," and so we just kind of hit it off from there. But
Sure.
But yeah, they were all kind of dressed. I'm just some 6'1", 150-pound idiot that wears Vans every day and T-shirts, and they were kind of, they had the Vans and the sub def gear, and I was like, wait a second, these guys. So I started talking to them, and then lo and behold, they were kind of the same kind of degenerate crew that I was, and that's how I met. Like, I'm sure you know of Axel Advance.
Yeah.
Guys from Axel, they're here in Dallas also, and some of them came in and they were kind of dressed the same way, and so I started talking to them, and then lo and behold, they were the same kind of dudes. There's a lot of cool guys. There's a lot of industry guys here in Dallas, actually. Quite a few of them are down here.
Do you? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just gonna say, do you see a lot more of like that realm of influence in like everyday? Excuse me, like every day. So like I said, being in the Southeast area, it's definitely a lot more. It's just a different type of gun owner for the most part. There are some great dudes, but some it's just a different breed, really. But do you see a lot more of that more often, like in your stores and stuff like that? Like, are you seeing guys like that pop there? I mean, obviously, you just named a bunch of folks that pretty big dudes. So, like, obviously, it's a lot more relevant than it was. But do you see more people kind of inclined to that and kind of moving to that realm?
Definitely. There's a lot more dudes now that are into, the superior defense and the shooting with, kit and night vision. And, night vision was like freaking taboo just like 4 or 5 years ago, which you want to hurt some feelings and get on a controversial topic. I think like T-Rex Arms and Lucas Bakken and those nerds, they have definitely influenced that in a large part. I think whether, love them or hate them, I think a lot of that due to them, but also to, Corey,
Absolutely.
Sub-Def and those guys, just taking photos and like, I hate using this word because a lot of weirdos use it, but like normalizing that stuff, like taking a plate carrier to the range, like wearing a helmet, that sort of thing. Like, I'll be honest, I put my contacts on my helmet for night vision use, and then it took so long to get them on there. I was like, dude, I'm not taking them off. Like, I was planning on just taking them back off, put them on a band if I ever used them without the helmet, but I was like, I just left them on there. And now, like, I shoot with my helmet during the day, like whenever. I just wear my helmet, like whatever. And used to, that was like, people would think you were a weirdo for wearing a helmet, but now it's pretty normal to shoot with a helmet and full kit, like anytime. So there's a lot of guys like that coming in. And we've that's one thing me and Brandon have talked about a lot with Bauer, is kind of tailoring, we carry a lot of Geisley and V7 and Seekins and things like that. And all of that stuff is still somewhat relevant, but like Seekins and V7, and a lot of that stuff is starting to kind of get phased out to an extent with like, the Unity mounts and the mod light stuff, and just like more high speed, new age type things. And that we've kind of switched gears of late and started carrying more of that type of stuff. And we've talked about carrying like nylon and carrying HESCO plates, and even carrying some Spiritus gear and things like that, just because we do get people that come in and ask for it. And where can I buy some body armor? And there's not a ton right now, because I think part of that is due to it's so much easier to just buy stuff online.
Yeah.
Me included. And when I want to buy some HESCO plates, I don't search like who carries body armor in DFW. I just go online and order them. But yeah, we've definitely seen a shift towards that. And people come in and they see me wearing, a Discreet Ventures shirt. And those guys are local to us too. Super cool guys.
Oh, don't give him any credit, dude. God, I'll never hear the end of it from him. Him. Don't even say his name.
You know him?
Yeah. No. Unfortunately, I do. No, he's a good dude.
He's a great dude. We dance together a lot.
I believe that.
But just stuff like that, and people will recognize that, and then they, it's kind of, they'll say, "Oh, okay," it's kind of like you're one of those people. Like you're a modern type shooter. You're not going to judge me for asking about plate carriers or night vision or whatever. Instead of, if they come in and you're wearing a freaking, Browning shirt, which is a sticker company at this point, they're probably not going to ask you about night vision and helmets and body armor. But I think it's good. I think it's great that people have kind of transitioned towards that. It's a good thing. It's good for our industry, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. You want to rebrand stuff too. And this was always something that, I always give Corey a lot of credit. Maybe he wasn't the first one to really move it that direction, but he was the first person that I saw, from my experience, kind of pushing it that direction. And he was kind of what influenced me on some of that, like, outlook and, thought process, especially like in firearms and guns and stuff like that, is, disassociating that you have to be a gun guy, Like you can enjoy it, like you can do, but there's other hobbies. There's other things you can do. You don't have to wear like you said, a Browning shirt to let everyone know that you go hunting or whatever, or you're you just enjoy, like, you don't have to just enclose yourself in that whole thing, but also popularizing it towards younger generation. Because again, like I brought up the gatekeeping part, but that's definitely always been kind of an input from gun, and I thought you were going to say industry earlier. That was the word I was going to say, but like, influencing and industry stuff, where it's always kind of geared towards, a certain populace, and dude, it can definitely be very off-putting, and some gatekeeping happens. Sure. And then on top of that, they can be very like, it's kind of funny because but a lot of times will kind of look down on you, or if you don't look the same way, you don't have your 5'11" whatever pant. Like, I don't care if you do. I'm just saying, like, if you don't look the part, you just kind of like, what is this dude doing here? Like, he has no business, shooting this. If you
go on my Instagram, like, that's one thing I've always, dare I say, admired Corey for. And I don't really know Corey. We've DM'd a few times. I sent him a leather dick patch that I made, and it actually made it onto his wall of patches or whatever. And he sent us some swag. And I know him through the guys here local that hang out with him also. I've never actually seen him in person, but that's one thing I've always thought was cool, was he's talked about too, like, you don't have to, like, guns can be fun. Like, it doesn't just have to be like super serious, like, your guns are what keeps you from getting killed, et cetera, et cetera. And they definitely have that place. But like, if you look on my Instagram also, I mean, I wear skinny jeans and Vans every day of my life, and I do not look like someone who would be like, for lack of a better term, like conservative leaning or like right leaning, you know, towards freedom or whatever you want to call it. And people would probably think that about Corey too. I would imagine they probably think, you know, he's more of like a lefty or whatever. And whether you are or not, like a lot of that is irrelevant to me. But I've always thought that was funny because people see me and they're like, oh, you know, you're not a shooter, you're not a hunter, you're not a this, that, and the other. And I think it comes as a whole with the kind of the shift in society towards you have to have a label on you. You know, everybody assumes that, you know, I'm a Trump guy because I own guns, and it's like, well, I feel like politics and policies and people in general are more than just Republicans or Democrats or this or that, and not to get into politics, but I think there's more complexity towards, you know, even gun dudes than people actually think there is. It's like, oh, you shoot a Knight's gun, so you're a clone guy. Well, no, I shoot a Knight's gun because I like Knights, you know, and I also own a Kel-Tec. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's different ways of approaching it, and there's different ways of explaining it, but I think guns have been this big, serious thing for so long, and like this taboo deal of, it's kind of like reloading. I got into reloading not too long ago, and holy crap, you talk about a horrible industry to like try to get into. Oh my God. I mean, it's like packed full of fudds and gatekeeping and like old people, and everybody's cheap because that's kind of like the consensus behind reloading, like trying to save money. So it's like, if you're selling something that's not like dirt cheap, way under cost, people just assume you're like gouging them or whatever. Yep. And it's just wild, man. You get on those reloading like Facebook pages, and you got dudes typing in all caps and like, you know, close up pictures of their face, like up their nose as a profile picture, just straight like boomer type. Like shit
you think we'd be past in this day and age, you know?
Yeah.
It's fucking wild.
Yeah, totally.
It's funny too.
It's a difficult thing.
Yeah, and it's weird too, especially like with reloading. Like I don't reload as much now. Well, I haven't reloaded in a while, just because for me, cost wise, it just didn't make sense. I mean, it definitely was. It was just the way I looked at it. Someone told me about reloading, and it was like, you know, if you shoot a lot, then it's worth to reload. If you don't shoot that much, then it's just a waste of money. Which I was like, yeah, I shoot a good bit. So I got into it, did a little bit, and then the cost of ammo was just so cheap at the time. I was like, I'm going to save the mental energy, maybe get like a better reloading setup, and then I'll come back to this. I kind of started getting some more materials, and like when kind of COVID started, I was like, you know, probably time to start, you know, getting this stuff set up again, maybe doing a little bit of reloading. And unfortunately, I mean, like I had a decent set of ammo already purchased and set aside that I was planning on using for classes and whatever. So I had ammo, but the reloading stuff, it's funny how these guys, like you just said, like, you know, scoffing or being critical of whatever you're charging or cost of ammo and parts. But dude, some of these guys, and it was always the same people. And I have evidence too. I can prove this. These older, I'll just say it. These older fudds buying up ammo reloading supplies with no regard of using it and literally just flipping it. And for the profit, I mean, like, so you're talking about like, I'll just use like primers, for example. You know, 1,000 primers is normally like, it used to be like 38, maybe like 25 to $38, depending on the brand or whatever. And these guys were going on and flipping them for 150. And you could tell, like you were just saying, like it's just so easy, dude. You just know. You always know because their gun broker account is like 15 plus years old. They have a shit ton of transactions of like little crap things. And then on top of that, you can see the boxes are all like either it's like older stock that they have. It's all ratty and shit. Or like, you know, they have like the worst fucking pictures imaginable. And like you said, all caps, like, will not separate, you know, stuff like that, you know, just, and that's not all of them, but just some of them. And it's like, dude, it's so frustrating for people that are like that. And now don't get me wrong, again, hey, you buy it. I mean, you can sell it and do whatever. The market will adjust at some point, but for people who are always talking about like, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. And then on top of that, always talking about penny pinching and I mean, like the list goes on, right? Or you need to go out and shoot, blah, blah, blah. But then they make it to where it's nearly impossible to either get into that industry or that. And then, some of those guys are super secretive on like recipes too for their, dude, it just blows my mind. Like the whole thing is just super, like why? Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, like firearms and stuff like you said, making it fun. I agree 100%. Like I think if you go to the range, you're shooting, you're using, ammunition, stuff like that, then safety is always, a huge priority. It should be number one priority. But you can still have fun. Like you don't have to make it to where it's like a fucking drill sergeant is stepping behind you and breathing down your neck. Just like relax. I think you're more prone to have an accident if you're so wound up and tight and making sure everything is like, oh my God, did I do that correctly? Am I 100%? Did I make sure I wasn't safe? I mean, obviously you'd be safe, but
yeah, again, like I mean, it's like shooting and moving, or breaking 180, or not even breaking 180, but just breaking like 90. Like people just freak out. And it's like, I mean, you're talking about there's probably more danger and chance of injury in you shooting a Palmetto State like gun that's made out of a beer can than there is in us shooting high quality firearms, like doing movement drills or doing, reload drills or whatever you want to call it. And there's obviously a safe way to do that. And there's definitely a dangerous way to do that, as we've all seen in online videos of people training that shouldn't be training people.
Absolutely.
But yeah, just that whole stigma of like, I know it's kind of like, this is kind of off topic a little bit, but, I'm 29. I've been married since 2014. So whatever, 7 years. But my wife is super cool. She does not dictate, what we can and cannot buy. Like I'm the only sole provider. She takes care of my daughter and she doesn't work, and that's the way we like it. But there's dudes that come in all the time and they're like, oh, I gotta ask my wife for this, or, can I get a receipt that's like a different price, like, and it's like just that whole stigma behind like your wife basically runs your life and she's not like your teammate. Like that's the kind of stuff that is the same type of thing of like, lost my guns in a boating accident. Like let's get serious and actually say that like these guns are mine, and if you try to take them, I'm most likely going to shoot you. Like that. I don't know. There's a lot of stigmas I have a lot of beef with boomers, and there's a lot of boomers in my family. I mean, I have some great family members that are boomers, and I have friends that are boomers, and they're not all like that. I don't want to stereotype all of them, but there's just there's a lot of them. And you mentioned Gunbroker. Dude, Gunbroker is like
cancer.
I hate Gunbroker so much, and we use Gunbroker, and not even for like to sell things over profit, but just because Gunbroker is such a huge market. Like you can reach so many people with Gunbroker. I mean, I can put guns on Gunbroker and they'll sell 3 times faster than they will on my website. So it's just kind of it's a huge market, and they sell it at MAP pricing. They sell it standard pricing, but there's just so many people that they like Gunbroker. They like the security of Gunbroker, that you typically don't get scammed. You have feedback, that sort of thing. And sometimes you can, snag a deal if you get an auction right or whatever. But the dudes on Gunbroker are like, they're all like that kind of person. They're those reloaders or those whatever. I had a guy just recently that bought an SMG 45, and we sent it to him, and he literally, so he calls, emails, says, hey, this gun is used. And we're like, no, it's new. All of our guns are new. They're all sealed in the box. Like, so then he contacts LWRC, and LWRC tells him like, basically we don't want any part of it because it's not our gun anymore. Well, he like white gloved this entire gun and was like, there's a scratch here. This gun has been fired. And, we explained to him that like, they're test fired from the factory. Like they're not brand new, but they're they're new. And I mean, he white gloved the whole thing, and it just got to the point where it was like, dude, just send me the gun. I'll sell it to somebody else. Like, I don't even care. And that's what he did. He ended up sending it back. But I mean, it was like the kind of guy that when he did send it back, he called like 5 times to verify the address, and then he was wanting to put insurance on it, and then well, I just want to make sure I'm sending this back to the right person. And he literally sent me a handwritten note, okay, like pen to paper, and it was an entire sheet of notebook paper, like addressed to me because I was the one dealing with him, and like talking about how you guys are stand up, and like I'll definitely do business with you again. And it was like, please God, don't do business with us again. Like you buy stuff somewhere else. Like, but that's gun broker. Like they're full of people like that. Like, hey, this auction ended today. When is my gun going to ship? Like, I don't get it, man. I don't. And I think that's one thing I've seen that's been good for our industry is a shift toward, and I know I keep referencing him, but like Corey and Privateer and Forward and White Phosphor and all those guys, that their policy is like, hey, this is a pre-order and it's going to take like 4 to 6 weeks to ship it. So if you don't like that, don't order from us. Whereas before, you've got this stigma of like, I'm the consumer and I gave you my money, and so now you owe me your life. Like that was the stigma. And now it's like, I think people, in a way, as much as we are millennials, and I'll say that even myself included, like I'm very impatient, but I am also not a dick, and I understand how to treat people and know that things take time.
Yeah.
But this newer generation of dudes is like, oh, I understand what a back order is. I understand that things are in high demand. I understand things take time. They're willing to pre-order stuff. The clone dudes are willing to wait like years for some grip that's like the right color or whatever. Yeah. And I think that has been a push towards the positive of just people being more like understanding of that, rather than being so like cling to their money and like, I paid you and now you owe me everything. Like, I don't know.
I'm the same way. Like, and I tell people the same thing. Like I would definitely be in some of those categories when I started getting into it, but I was also like 18, 19 years old. There's like a level of maturity, but some of these guys are way past that time frame of being super impatient and super demanding. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And it's always like just having to jump through multiple loops, to so many different loops to just get your, to do something like that. It's just hilarious. Yeah. White gloving. I had a similar story where I was picking something up from an FFL, and there was this other guy in front of me, and I will be 100% honest. I was already getting in a pissy mood because the guy would not shut the fuck up and move so I could get my stuff and go. He was just sitting there rambling and asking about bullshit. But apparently he had picked up and ordered like 5 Colt 6920s. I don't know why he bought 5. I guess like reselling or something, because it was kind of starting getting kind of like hairy with COVID and stuff like that. It was like really starting to, demand was starting to start driving up. And he's like looking at him when I'm like doing a 4473, and he's like, man, these things are scratched to hell. What's up with that? And like, being someone who's owned multiple Colts and know how they come, I kind of look over and I just see them, and it's just a fucking regular ass Colt, man. It's just like, it's in the bag, has a little, whatever, oil and shit on it. But, they're just, Colt doesn't really give a shit what they look like when they go out the door, They're not like fucking top line, clean, like Cerakote, like a, I don't know, like a Noveski or whatever. They're just, regular ass Colts anodized. I think
it's anodizing.
Yeah.
That's
and
the way it looks.
Exactly. So, and the guy behind the counter was like, yeah, I mean, he's like, that's how they came in, man. And he said, they just normally look a little bit like that. And he goes, well, that's bullshit. Like I didn't pay that much for a brand new Colt for it to look like this. He said, their quality control must be dropping. Now, I'm not saying that they haven't been dropping a little bit beforehand, but that's what I was like, well, man, dude, they don't really, that's why I leaned over and said, well, I mean, honestly, I've purchased a couple and that's about what they always look like. I was like, it's just the nature of the beast with when you buy a Colt rifle. And the dude just couldn't get past that. Like, it was the same thing, like white glove and like running it through. And he was like, do you think if I was to email and like, dude, oh my God, it's not even like you paid like $700 a rifle. Like, I don't know. It's like, dude, if you're going to use them, then who gives a shit? You know, it's not even if you like really, they're not even scratched. It's just anodizing. It's just like, you know, you could probably put some heavier oil and then rub it and it would probably, I don't know. Just the whole thing was just like, dude,
that's
man.
the key, dude. If you're going to use them, they're not going to use them.
Exactly.
People like that aren't going to use them, dude. So my main gun, I think we have this in common from what I've gathered. My main gun is a Noveske 10.5 DevGru gun.
Yeah,
so
hell yeah.
It's a little bit different than the DevGru gun, obviously, because I'm not a clone nerd, but it's basically a 5.56 DevGru. So the lower and the mag well already is like scratched to pieces, and the side of the receiver is scratched from being on a sling and like sitting up against the Cobra buckle, like when I'm wearing kit and all that. And I don't care. Like, that's what it's for. It's a tool. You use it. Like, it's going to get wore out. People ask me all the time, like, oh, what color of, you know, flashlight should I go with? Or, you know, what color rail should I do? And I always tell them, like, you're asking the wrong dude. Like, I'm the guy that's shooting a brown gun with a black can and a black D-ball and a brown flashlight and a freaking black aim point with a gold Unity mount. I have a sticker on my stock, and there's like there's a freaking a purple Lancer mag in the mag world. Like, I'm the wrong person to ask about what color combination you should go with.
Yeah.
But we have those people too. I mean, it's just there's a lot of dudes that they're not going to shoot the gun. They just buy it. Who knows what they do with it? I don't know what they do with it, but if you're going to use your equipment, I mean, you're probably not. I mean, I totally get to I'll say that. I get the camp of like, I spent $5,000. Like, I want a good, you know,
absolutely
a good product. But at the same time, you know, I spent $5,000 so I can have a product that's not going to break. Like, I have a product that's not going to fail me. Not so I have a product that's going to be some pristine color and whatever else. I mean, depends on what you're buying, but a gun is a tool, in my opinion. Who cares? Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, like, there's going to be different categories for it and stuff like that, but definitely just not getting so wound up on keeping it as pristine as possible. I mean, I was that way at one point, and then I think, you know, at this point, I just don't care anymore. And like the same thing, my Navy is like all the mag wells, like some of the Cerakotes off, just, you know, just running it, shooting it. And then I just don't care anymore. It's like, there was like, background to that gun was I was looking for pretty much, I wouldn't say I'm like a crazy clone guy, but I do like cloning guns. Not so much anymore. But the whole thing was I wanted a lightweight gun because, as most cloners know, every clone gun is like 10 times the weight of every other standard gun that's normally, like, you know, may not be as efficient, but they're normally solid guns, but they're always heavy as hell. Dude, are always heavy. So I was thinking to myself, you know, I really want just a good, lightweight, short barrel rifle. Like, that's what I want. I just want something like that. And then I think it was Tiny Crumb was actually the one who pinged me on the Navy. And this was like really before it was kind of relevant. Like, no one really knew what that whole thing was about. Like, there was any threads about it. There was a couple like droppings on it. Like, you look on the page and people are seeing some pictures of a cool gun, but, you know, that no one really knew what they were doing or, like, you know, what the thing was behind it. But that's what it was. And, you know, he kind of gave me a good build list, and dude, I went out and built it. The parts were semi hard to get, but it wasn't as bad as it was like a couple months later when it became like popularized. But yeah, it's great. It's a great gun. Like, that was why I wanted a nicer, lightweight gun that wasn't like, you know, me fucking carrying a thing of damn bricks everywhere I went when I was shooting and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, just need to use your stuff, not get so wrapped up on the aesthetics and keeping it as pristine condition as possible. You know, just shoot it, just use it. I think people get too wrapped up in that.
Yeah, and that gets worse. I mean, and I don't want to sound like that snobby dude that's a dealer, because being a dealer doesn't really do anything for you. It doesn't mean you're any cooler than anybody else. But when you're an SOT, you can kind of cycle through silencers. Like you can try out this and then you try out this. And I mean, you're like, you do it kind of for the customer. I mean, I've ran Q silencers, Surefire silencers, and and right now I'm running a Griffin silencer, which is the first time ever I'm running a Griffin, and I'm probably going to run a silencer co-silencer next. And you do that to kind of get a better feel on what a can is like and how it performs, so you can pass that on to your customer. And so when you're an SOT, it's like you don't even care, dude. Most guys with their cans are like, I gotta have something to put it in. Like, you gotta have a case for it. Like, oh, shit. I mean, I had an RC2 and I launched it downrange like 4 times, and every single time it was on purpose. Like, you just don't care about your stuff. And the other night we were at a night shoot, and I had a Dead Air Wolverine that a friend of mine bought. He's a Cutthroat Collective on Instagram. You probably know him. And he bought this Wolverine, and so I brought it out so he could shoot it. And he was like trying to get it to mount. If you've ever mounted a Wolverine, it's like there's so many moving parts. Like, it's a pretty crazy engineering feat, and it's kind of difficult to make sure you got it right. So we were, he was obviously concerned that it was mounted correctly. And I said to him, I was like, dude, just shoot the thing. And he was like, well, I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to damage it. And I told him, looking back, this is a douchebag thing to say, but I told him, I said, you know how I can tell you're not an SOT? And he was like, how's that? I said, because you actually care about, like, if you damage your can or not. Like, people putting like rods down their barrels and like reaction rods to make sure and the barrels are coincident. Like, we don't do any of that. We just shoot it. If it flies off or it shoots a hole in it, it obviously wasn't straight. And then lo and behold, of course, he puts it on, shoots 3 rounds through it, and almost blows the end cap out of it, because I'm pretty sure his barrel wasn't concentric, but he was sad about it for like 30 seconds, and then he was good with it. And I told him we'd get it fixed, and actually I sent it back to Dead Air, and they had it back to me within a week. No problem. It's all fixed up. So shout out to Dead Air also. But yeah, it was just funny because I said that, and now every time I bring it up, he says in the SpongeBob text, like, I know you're not an SOT. Like, because I almost blew his can up. But yeah, you just kind of start caring less when you realize it's a tool, and not worry about what it looks like. And a little story that I actually had another guy, not the white glove guy, but it was another gun broker guy that I sent him a Glock. He bought a Glock, standard Glock, and he wanted to send it back because he said the finish was messed up. Like, the finish is garbage, toast, whatever. So he sends me pictures of it. I was like, that's fine. Send me pictures. We'll make a determination. So he sends me pictures, and it's literally what a factory Glock looks like when there's no oil on the slides. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but like it turns like different shades and different colors and whatnot. And he was like, oh, the heat treating's all jacked up, whatever. So I'm like, okay, send it back. So I was like, do you want another one? And he's like, yeah, I still want it. Just send me one that's correct. I'm like, okay. I get the gun back. I may or may not have just oiled the slide and sent it back. I'm not sure. But we send him a gun, and he's like, oh yeah, this one looks great. The same serial number, like, you just got. But if I'd have told him, like, oh, you just have to put oil on it, he'd have been like, no, this is trash, But it's just, people are crazy, man.
Yeah, it's just so many different little intricacies, and the funny thing is too, I just because I'm knowledgeable and I've been kind of involved with this one for a little bit is the reason why I know as much. But I know, like, talking with buddies, other things that are kind of like in the same realm are just as bad too, man. Like, they're just like this too. Like knife industry, like that whole like crowd, like the EDC stuff. It just blows my mind on some of that stuff. But obviously, with guns being always so prevalent, and obviously there being a little bit of a wall and purchasing in a different set. It's just a little bit different, but it's wild, man.
You got that many alpha males. Yeah, there's a lot of egos there and stuff like that. And I think that definitely propels it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So, without ranting and raving the whole time like we have been, and complaining about people that we have to encounter generally, but on suppressors, we'll shift gears a little bit and kind of get into something we've been kind of pinging on it, and you guys being a big suppressor and being you said the number 2 in the country, number 1 in Texas.
Yeah, last time I checked. Again, that fluctuates. So if somebody listens to this and you're number 2 this week, I apologize.
Yeah, sure. Well, as it stands, we're just gonna, whether or not you are or not, we're just gonna say you are because it sounds pretty badass. So, suppressor wise, one question that I get pretty often, like I would say pretty damn often, especially in all that realm, is first time suppressor. What would you say as a first time suppressor? Like and this is what I tell people, and then I'll let you answer and what advice you would give. So my input is normally, it comes down to one thing. Do you want a dedicated suppressor, like a dedicated caliber? Like, do you want to just have a 5.56 suppressor, or do you want something that maybe does a little bit of everything? And that normally is what dictates what I'll tell people. In your response and dealing with what you deal with, what do you normally tell people as their first suppressor? And we're just going to say for like a AR-15 platform.
Yeah, so typically I answer that question with a question, kind of the same deal like you just talked about, but probably more so. So I'll ask people, what's your primary purpose? What do you want to get out of the silencer? Do you want it quiet as you can? Do you want something like with mobility as far as like the length and the weight? Or are you concerned about the mounting system? Are you concerned about flash suppression? Like, of those things, like, what is your number one goal that you want to encapsulate? And with most guys, like first time suppressor buyers, most of them are going to say, they want it as quiet as possible.
Yeah.
And I think as people buy more silencers, they kind of get out of that thought process. And it's more of like, I want something short, or I want something super lightweight for hunting, or whatever the case. But you do get different answers on that. But that's kind of how I break it down, is like, hey, if you're going to be in and out of a Polaris Ranger, or you're going to be in and out of a vehicle or whatever, you probably want something that's somewhat short, somewhat compact, because if you're trying to get out of a truck with a 22-inch gun with a 10-inch can on it, that's a lot of tactical telephone pole to try to get in and out of a vehicle with.
So in regards to, like, you were just saying that, like, how you were navigating people to suppressors and kind of what they're looking for and buying and stuff, and that's a really good point too, especially like for someone using for hunting and, like, navigation, etc. What is the most popular can you would say as it stands right now? I feel like I have an inkling of what it is, but I'm curious what you see the most often.
Man, right now the CGS cans are really hot. Like,
really?
Because of, there's a lot of like industry, we'll say, like back and forth on Jay from Pew Science.
Yeah.
But because of Pew Science and their data that they're releasing, CGS has really kind of climbed above a lot of different brands, just because of what they've been able to do. I don't personally own a CGS can. Their cans are kind of big. I think if they could take their cans and make them, like, for instance, their Helios QD is like their 5.56 can. If they could take that can and make it to where there's not as many like adapters in order to get it to like a QD can, it makes it kind of long when you start adding all that stuff on the back of it. I think it would be like heads and tails above everyone else. It's just a little bit like long if you don't want a direct red silencer. But like their Hyperion is right now, last time I've looked, is the quietest silencer you can buy, like quietest 30 cal silencer. So a lot of guys follow Pew Science, and a lot of guys are following the trend of, what's the quietest. And so CGS has really come up, but it's not, I think that's kind of like not as like black and white of an answer.
Yeah.
Because I've probably sold more white gem cans in the last year than anything else, just because they're so like affordable, and yet they're still a really good silencer. The Dead Air Nomad is a big seller. Dead Air we sell a ton of Nomad. A lot of guys like Dead Air. But when it comes to like 5.56 or like the Knights guys or the Clone guys, or I mean the RC2 is king. Like there's really not really anything that beats the RC2 as far as like guys that are into clone stuff or just a 5.56 dedicated silencer, because of, I think for me, it would be their mounts without a silencer are really, really nice. Their 3-prong mount, the War Comp is nice without a silencer, like that. And then their silencers are unmatched for signature reduction and flash suppression, like shooting under nods or whatever. Like there's no fire at all. But we're starting to see a trend of, like in the beginning, it was like everybody would buy a 30 cal silencer because, you know, you can shoot 5.56 through a 30 cal silencer. So there's no need for 5.56 cans. So like 5.56 cans kind of started going away, and really the only ones that made it still were Surefire.
Yeah.
Because of their contracts that they hold. Well, then now we're starting to see a trend back the other direction. I think it's because a lot of dudes are now somewhat well versed in the silencer arena, and they've got more than one, and so they're like, oh, I would really rather have a dedicated silencer. Like in the beginning, everybody says like, I'm just gonna buy one.
Yeah. Everyone says that.
And that that's never true. And so guys are starting to trend back towards a 5.56 cans, and now you've seen Yankee Hill has a dedicated, Surefire has a dedicated, Energetic just released a dedicated 5.56. CGS has one. I'm probably missing some, but Q has talked about the Lefty that they're supposed to come out with, which who knows when it'll come out. But then you've got also the Dead Air's talked about, you know, they're eventually going to release a dedicated 5.56 can. I think people are starting to go back to that, seeing kind of the benefits of that smaller, that tighter bore and you know, just more compact can for a 5.56 dedicated for an AR.
Yeah, and I agree with that too, and that's kind of the way I went about it too, because I knew out the gates I was probably going to buy more than one suppressor, so I just wanted one good can that I could just literally beat the living hell out of, and not have to worry about long-term use and all that stuff. So that's what I ended up doing. I ended up getting I got a good deal on an RC1. I'll probably end up getting another RC2 at some point, just so I'm not burning down one suppressor, but I'm not worried about that. You know, I just have so many guns. Like you said, their muzzle devices are phenomenal. I love, like, you know, who would I be as a cloner if I didn't have at least 1 or 2 4-prongs on rifles? So of course I have some, but you know, they're actually not even the best performing. I'm sure you know that, but the 3-prongs are actually a little better. But yeah, I mean, like their muzzle devices are just phenomenal. I love the lockup, and you know, they're just solid, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. So you know, I just realized that's what I wanted first to, you know, because that's all I was shooting for the most part, and I just wanted whatever I was going to shoot the most to have a good suppressor, so I could just not have to worry about a damn thing. So
yeah, it's kind of the Surefire can is kind of the standard in that realm.
Yeah.
And if you haven't watched it, I would encourage everyone to go to YouTube and watch. Silencer Shop did a video where they toured Surefire's facility, and it's like an hour long, but it's freaking pretty cool. Like Surefire's facility is state of the art, top notch. Their processes are pretty incredible, and they're like, I don't quote me on this, but they were talking to their production manager at the end of the video, and they were like, in the last, you know, run or whatever, like, what's your average, like, MOA shift? And it was something like in the last 30,000 silencers, their average MOA, like, point of impact shift was like 0.4 MOA. Like, just ridiculous, like, quality control. So I think with that, I mean, it's hard to beat. It's a great can.
Yeah. And same thing. Like that was one of the other things that kind of moved me in that direction was just because of just the fact that just minimal shift and all that stuff. It's just a great, it does you know, if you're looking for the quietest can, well, I mean, one, you're kind of in the wrong direction anyways, because at the end of the day, 5.56 is it's just not going to be quiet, you know. But
Sure.
as a good operating 5.56 suppressor, it does everything it needs to, you know, like all you said, like the flash reduction, mounting setup, long-term use, et cetera, you know, minimum shift. It's just a great suppressor. That's normally what I tell people to look at if they're looking for a dedicated 5.56 suppressor for their first one. Like, I normally will tell them, go check out a Surefire or like a RC2, you know, like it's kind of hard to beat, a little bit pricier, you know, they don't really go on sale though, do they? I don't think they really go on sale.
They, shameless plug, they do at Bauer Precision. We get them in bulk right now. I've got a ton of them. We run 15% off sales on them pretty regularly, but
there you go.
But yeah, in fact, we just had one for Halloween. We'll have some more stuff for Black Friday. We'll have a big sale for Black Friday, and then, you know, so on and so forth, kind of that time of the year. But I'm the same way. If somebody says, you know, I want a dedicated 5.56 silencer and I want, you know, the best, we'll say in air quotes, the best 5.56 dedicated silencer, I would say an RC2 every time because of those reasons, and because of, like, I mean, yes, it's not the quietest silencer in the world, but the other benefits of it kind of outweigh the suppression part of it, and people quickly realize that 5.56 is just inherently loud anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's really it's hard to suppress. I mean, people think it's not, but it's because it's a small bullet, but there's a lot of pressure there and a lot of noise, and it's hard to suppress. And probably my favorite part of the mounting system is that nothing screws on. So like every mount, you know, has threads on it for the most part.
Yeah.
So something's screwing on, whether it's the Acme threads where you screw the can on and then it's got a locking system or whatever. What that does is it creates a point of the muzzle device could potentially unscrew from the gun. Or you've got, you know, when you add in threads, you add in carbon locking to threading, it makes it that much harder. Well, RC2 has a collar that doesn't have anything to do with the carbon, so you just turn the collar off, and then it's all a matter of if it got stuck. I mean, obviously the manual tells you to shoot it off, but it's all a matter of like blunt force to get it off. There's no twisting involved, and I think that's pretty cool to me, having had mounts that were stuck on and, you know, threads gall and threads strip out, and there's issues with threads. And so they've managed to make a really good mount that's really repeatable, and there's nothing that you actually screw onto the gun. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And that was like one of my things too, because I know that, it's funny, like just last week, my buddy's, new Sandman actually got locked up on his, and we had been shooting about the same amount. And then, you know, I was like, damn, I have a Sandman in jail and I'm waiting on it, but, and I'll kind of mess with it more and more when I get it out finally. But I'm super curious to see just how it kind of compares. But when he was like trying to take it off, I was like, dude, I don't think you're supposed to take it off. Isn't it at the collar? And he was like, no, it's directly on. You just, you know, just like grab it and then just turn it off. And I was like, really? I was like, damn, that makes me super, like, I don't know, it makes me nervous, dude. I was like, I'll have to just, you know, mess with it when I get it. But I was like, yeah. I was like, I wonder why they didn't use like a collar system. You know, I know they have their own, you know, lockup and their own setup too, but same thing. I mean, I don't think I've ever had I think I've had it lock up one time, and then, you know, I was like, oh, I'll just get it later. And then later on, I just, like you said, just brute force. I just, you know, just took it off like with a little bit more energy to it, and it came right off, no problem. But, you know, I don't know. I'm with you too. I'm more definitely in the realm of liking it on a collar system too. Like, I'm not sure what the process would be if something was damaged. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone damaging their Surefire suppressor, like, you know, ripping it or yanking it off, you know.
No, they talk about in that video that they had one RMA where a dude dropped his rifle out of a helicopter.
Oh shit.
And it hit like some trees and then hit the ground. And they brought the can in, and the outside was beat up, but it actually still passed all of their qualifications for production.
Hmm.
So they took it out anyways and put a new sleeve on it and sent it back out. Just to, because it's a welded baffle stack with a sleeve pressed over the top and welded. They just unwelded it, put a new sleeve on it so it would look pretty, but it still performed. There's nothing wrong with it. And then if you've watched the Grand Thumb video on the original RC, I mean, he's got like something like 80,000 rounds through his can. I mean, it's been rebuilt a couple times, but that's to be expected. But I mean, that's just crazy. That many rounds. I mean, that's saying a lot.
What would you say is like a rebuild time on those? I'm not too familiar with that, but when you start putting like thousands of rounds down, like obviously it's going to be specific, I mean, well, not specific, it'll be kind of like dependent, but what would you say is a rebuild time?
Man, I'm not an engineer, but I would guess probably like 30,000 rounds or something like that.
That's a shit ton of ammo.
Probably more than what most people are going to shoot through them. And it's basically like the baffles erode to a point that they're getting somewhat inefficient. Mm-hmm. And so the bore is opening up on them, but it's not like the can's just going to fall apart. It stops doing its job or starts to not do its job as well, and so then they rebuild them. But that, and then like, if you're talking like a pistol silencer or a 22 silencer, if it gets to the point that it gets so carboned up and coked up that there's basically no volume in the silencer, then it'll stop working.
Yeah. Have you, do you ever actually like sonic clean your suppressors at all? I've had some guy was telling me he had done that before. I've never done that, but I'm just curious. Do you do anything? Because I mean, like some of that stuff, dude. I told one guy about that, and I was like, if you do that, it's possible it's going to wear off the entire finish, But I was like, I don't know. But have you ever done anything like that or cleaned off a suppressor or whatever?
Yeah. So people ask about that a lot. Like, how do I clean this silencer and blah blah blah. You don't clean rifle silencers. It's not necessary. They shoot so hot that they don't need cleaning. They clean themselves. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to clean a rifle silencer other than, like you've probably noticed, Surefire cans come with like a big bore brush. Mm-hmm. You can punch a bore brush through there and kind of like knock some carbon off the actual bore if something happens to be there. And then like I'll take a wire brush and like I'll clean the taper of the can, because sometimes the taper gets a little, carboned up, and that's kind of what causes it to stick. Or if it gets a little bit tight or whatever, just knock the carbon out of that. But you don't need to soak it. You don't need to take it apart. I mean, most of them you can't because they're fully welded, but rifle silencers don't need to be cleaned. But yeah, I have used ultrasonic to clean them before. So if it has finish like a Cerakote, it will come off. So that's obviously you got to be careful there. But as far as if it's titanium or it's stainless steel, it's safe to I think titanium is safe also, but you can use an ultrasonic. And depending on the solution, you got to have the right solution. It's like acetone and some other chemicals that'll make your babies come out sideways. You put that in there, and then you nuke it and do that magic that ultrasonic does, and it will break carbon loose. But the best thing I've found for like 22 baffles, because they get insanely dirty, is take them apart and put them in a reloading tumbler with stainless steel pins. That's like, they come out brand new. You can't do that to an aluminum silencer because it'll jack it up, but you put a little solution in there and just wet tumble them with stainless steel pins, and then they come out looking brand new.
Yeah.
But again, you don't want to clean anything that's coated, which really, with those silencers, you don't really have to clean the tube. Like the actual tube that goes around them, you can typically just like hit it with like a wire brush or something and knock the stuff off. But the baffles are usually pretty tight in there and they seal, so it doesn't really get to the tube much.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like we were just saying a minute ago, I think most people at the end of the day are never going to get to the point where they have to really do a lot of that stuff for their suppressor. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they will.
The exception is a 22 can. 22 cans get crazy dirty after like 500 rounds even. So that'd be the only exception. But yeah, like a pistol can. I mean, I'm not a big pistol can guy, but even pistol cans, I didn't ever clean them. I mean, I never really worry about it.
That's probably the only suppressor that I haven't really had much interest in. And maybe if I got like one of those little PCCs, like a little, I don't know, like a small little carbine in like a pistol caliber or something like that. That's probably the only reason I would get one. But that's probably the only thing I haven't really had a desire, I guess, to do. But everything else, is kind of the same way. It needs to be run suppressed.
Handguns are just kind of obnoxious when they're suppressed. So it's kind of like, it's more of like for fun.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like actual purpose, unless you're like going to carry it on your hip in like an open holster, or you're going to put it in your truck and like shoot animals with it, like on your farm or something.
Yeah.
Like I could see that. But as far as carrying a handgun, like for duty use, it's not the best option. I mean, I've seen, like, I have a friend that shoots an Omega 9K on a Glock, and like he runs it in I think it's the T-Rex holster that they have for a suppressed gun. And like we were running a drill and it just like came flying out of the holster when he was running. So, I mean, like, I don't think those suppressor holsters are super duper secure. And I mean, as cool as they are, like, it's just not, it makes the gun so freaking long, and they're prone to malfunctions because of, inherently the way they're designed with a can on them. It's just not ideal, but they're cool. I mean, they're crazy quiet. They're definitely cool, but yeah, I'm the same way. Stick to like a pistol caliber carbine or sub gun or something.
Yeah, that's about the extent of it too. And I think, like what you were just saying, it's just kind of, I won't say it's not necessarily obnoxious. Well, I mean, it is kind of obnoxious. Like, just this, I just don't know when I would ever use it. It's just like, I'm not going to the range to open setup like that. And I think that's one of the few holsters that I know that can set up, I think, is that T-Rex. So I know exactly which one you're talking about, but yeah, it's just funny. I've shot a couple, but I don't like actually know anyone who's got one too. That's just kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's kind of like those weird things. Like, there's always I guess there's always one guy who maybe has one, but it's like, I don't know, he like brings it out once and that's about the extent of it. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, so what suppressor are you running, for the most part right now? What do you have on your main gun?
So right now I'm running the Griffin M4 SD2.
Yeah.
The 5.56. It looks like kind of like a NT4, like a corn cob knockoff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what a lot of guys say with the gate lock system. So far it's been a good can. I haven't had any accuracy issues. The mount on it is actually pretty cool. It mounts to an A2 flash hider, which is kind of cool. The only thing I don't like about it is it's very tight. Like, it goes over the muzzle device, essentially like a Surefire can does. Like, it just goes straight down, and then you lock it. Well, there's two, we'll say, like, surfaces that it kind of like seals on, and it's extremely tight, like the tolerance. So when you put it on, it's not too bad, but like when you shoot it and it starts to heat up and change different things, like it's really hard to get it. Like a Surefire can, back in Surefire, if you unlock the collar and your can is like piping hot, you can still just kind of like quickly like smack it or like grab it and pull it just real fast and it'll fall off. Well, this one's like not that way. You kind of got to like take the tip of it and like wiggle it back and forth while you're pulling up on it. And I don't like that about it. But other than that, I mean, it's been pretty good. It's a fully welded can, but the end cap is like a flash suppressor type end cap, and the flash suppression has been decent. The sound reduction is pretty good on it. I mean, it's been a good can, not bad. I've heard some, I don't know if they're listening, but I've heard some nightmares about Griffin's customer service, and that was one of the reasons too why I wanted to shoot it. We don't carry Griffin cans, but we do carry the Optimus Micro, which is the 22 and the 223 can. So it was like, hey, I'll try it out, see what it's like. my experience so far has been positive. I know Mil Spec Mojo, he runs the Import ST2, same one. But next, I'll probably go to like a Silencer Co. Staker. Silencer Co. is producing the Staker again, and my Silencer Co. rep has been pushing me pretty hard on. He wants me to shoot a Staker and see if I like it, because I've never actually shot a Staker. Never really got into the Silencer Co. stuff much.
Yeah, I didn't really either.
They make some really good cans. The Omega is a phenomenal can. I mean, it's pretty. If there was a suppressor like Hall of Fame, I think the Omega would be in the Hall of Fame somewhere. It's a really solid can that a lot of people like. But yeah, I still have an RC2. It's not on my gun right now. A buddy of mine bought my Mark 18 from me, so he shoots it a lot. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'll end up with. I jump around like crazy, so I get made fun of a lot for selling stuff and buying other stuff. So.
I do too, man. People always get on me like, "Oh, already gotten rid of such and such, and already move on to the et cetera." I'm right there with you. I'm in that same field. But yeah, that's pretty good stuff. That's pretty much the same. Like I will say that I'm pretty. I don't know. I've got a couple cool suppressors, so I was able to snag 2 that I've been looking for a while. One that I pretty much gave up on, and I just happened to fucking luck upon one. And then like the following week, I lucked up on another one. So I was like, oh damn, man, I'm really kind of like just, home runs here. So, but yeah, same pretty much this. I just used the Surefire, but I would, have an SOT, obviously that kind of makes that process a little easier. So you kind of like dabble around with a couple different suppressors. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'd heard a couple, like, I don't want to say mixed, but I remember there being something about Griffin as well. Like I remember reading or hearing a lot about it. It was a couple years back. I'm not up to date with what the current status is and all their stuff and what their quality. I don't remember. Yeah, always some kind of drama.
Always some drama,
yeah.
But I mean, I think they kind of, from what I gather, they kind of stepped on their dick on some ARFCOM threads. I think, which I'm not a ARF, I'm not an ARFCOM dude. I don't really get on there much, but I think there's still some threads that people consistently like point out, and they've been kind of scrutinized a little bit for quote unquote copying, like some Knights designs and stuff. But I mean, there's a lot of that's a big hot topic too. People copying things. I mean, everybody copies everybody. It's kind of hard not to at this point, but
it's a cutthroat industry, man. Well, I mean, like the whole realm of firearms is really cutthroat as it is, but suppressors, it seems like same that the ARFCOM, that's pretty funny. That's pretty sure that's where I was reading up on it once upon a time, but you really kind of get to see how some of these guys are super like cutthroat and just absolute despise each other. Some are obviously more outspoken than others, and it's just always funny seeing the personalities too. And you get to see some like these guys, man. They're fucking crazy. Yeah, dude. It's funny.
I can't imagine who you're talking about when you say that.
I mean, like my favorite of all time was I loved reading up on the Mark LaRue versus Bill Geisley threads. Those were always my favorite.
That was one of those things that. I wasn't in the firearms industry like enough, like deep in it enough to know what all that drama was about, but I know there was a bunch of drama from Mark LaRue and surrounding Mark LaRue, and he's kind of from what I gather, he's kind of a little bit that boomerish of like, if you don't like it, I don't really care kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
He was kind of the pinnacle of optic mounts for a while there. And then, now Geisley's kind of that person, but now they're starting to piss people off too.
It's weird.
Circle of life, man.
Yeah. That's weird. Like I've never had a bad dealing with LaRue myself. But in the same breath, I haven't bought a lot of stuff from them either. I've had some really bad experiences with Geisley. A lot. Like,
really?
Yeah, and it's definitely more recently.
Are they Black Friday experiences?
Yeah, man, nail on the head, dude. Nail on the head. I won't go into details. I've talked to some people about it, and about like they'll ask me, and I still own Geisley stuff. And then there's definitely, I just know in my opinion, looking at it from outside without being too biased, seems like, with them dabbling in a different market and really trying to take on contracts and building guns, they, had that super huge growing pain yet again when they started getting into that, and that Black Friday just exemplified that. And they just kind of shit the bed. Well, they didn't kind of, they did. They absolutely shit the bed. But they, again, it happens. It's not a big deal. It's just how you handle it. And some stuff was fine. Some stuff I still am pretty bitter about. But they also had that whole thing with the URGI, which was really funny. It's interesting stuff. Again, yeah, dude, it all goes down on ARFCOM, dog. It's all on fucking AR15.com, dude. And I love it, dude. I've been on the site for a while, and looking at stuff and reading up on it, and just kind of keeping up with what's going on. Not as much as anymore because I just don't have time. But yeah, the whole Mark LaRue, Bill Gleisig stuff is super funny. Like, it's kind of funny that he's kind of like that OG FUD, but at the same breath, he's a super cool dude. Super like pro this, pro that, and just kind of like you said, doesn't give a shit. So in some aspects, he's like an anti-FUD. But then he also does some stuff that's super fuddish, and then like him going back and forth. As a dude, like I said, it's like I literally spent like a week or so just like reading up and just laughing, like reading the threads. He got banned from like the general discussion for basically being a troll. And dude, just it's fucking hilarious to me.
I don't understand how people get so like in their feelings about that kind of stuff. Like, I think it's kind of a trend too, though. I mean, like, it doesn't matter. I can say this from like operating a business standpoint of like, it doesn't matter what you do. You're always going to make somebody mad. Yep. And like, I've seen that trend too with like, again, we're going back to this, but like Corey talking about people being upset about like drop culture, and then, like things being available. And like, I think the Geisley thing just kind of put a bad taste in people's mouth when they went to like the bayonet mount thing. Like, everybody was like, what are you doing? Like, we all want, X product, and you guys are making like this product that's like way off in left field, and everybody's kind of wondering why we can't buy Mark 16 rails or Mark 4 rails, and at the same time you guys are making a bayonet mount and like marketing it like to the moon. Like, what is happening? But I think that same, like, I've seen that with Noveski. There's been a ton of anger directed at Noveski because they shut down. And again, this is all like me knowing what I know, so this may be incorrect. So Lorena, if you're listening, I apologize. But it's, from what I've gathered, like, they shut down for part of COVID when COVID like first started. They shut down for a while, and so their production was behind. Well, then they started making guns, and they're shipping guns to dealers, and we're a direct dealer of theirs, and we get their stuff. And I'm a huge fan of Noveski stuff. I mean, I've had multiple rifles of theirs, but they kind of like they did like the Warm Fuzzy, the Hobgoblin, and they did the stuff with Rusty Butcher, and then they did like the water gun with Erdert, and they did like just recently they did the Space Baby with Warm Fuzzy. And people get really upset when they don't get the drop, like they miss the drop and they don't get the product, and then they're mad because you can't buy a Noveski rifle in a lot of places because they're out of stock. But then they're doing things like collaborations with other people. But a lot of that, and a lot of what people don't get, I think, is that there's a lot more to that. There's a lot more background to that than just like, oh, we decided to stop producing rifles and do this thing with Warm Fuzzy. Like, a lot of this stuff's been in the works for a while, I'm sure. And also, it makes money, and it is rifles that are in stock. But I can say right now, I mean, I've got a Noveski 18-inch SPR. I've got 10.5, 5.56s. I've got 8-inch Diplomats, like, all in stock, like, not sold. But yet you have people still online, like, griping at Noveski saying, I want to buy your stuff, and it's not in stock. But most of those dudes, like, probably wouldn't buy them anyways. Like, they're not the kind of guys that would buy them anyways, but they're going to complain about it. And I think that happens with like most every company. Like, you start doing something, and then you make these other people mad because everybody's so sensitive. And then, you try to appease those people, and then you make this other base mad. And sometimes there's just no winning.
Yeah, and like you just said, I mean that's sometimes just a part of the kick. And with Noveski and stuff like that, I mean they're still putting products out. Like you said, there's still some stuff availability. And I don't think I've had anyone I've talked to, because people do know that I'm a big Noveski fan, especially since that rifle has pretty much just become my primary sole gun that I've been shooting. But again, I lucked out in the beginning, and then I was able to get some cool parts along the way. But it wasn't like I built it in the day and it was done and I purchased it. I kind of had to piece it all together to get it set up the way I wanted. Blah blah blah. But yeah, man, people are just like, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. It's a fickle beast. Yeah, it's a fickle beast. With some stuff like that, like to me, especially like with Warm Fuzzy, I mean, wasn't the first gun a donation to Fire FPC? Wasn't it like a donation in the regardless?
It very well might have been. I don't remember.
Or some percentage of proceeds, I believe, I know from the Hobgoblin. There was one that they did where proceeds or something, maybe they raffled one off as well. But it was a part of it as well. But, at the end of the day, they still, some of it was donated proceeds towards FPC. So it's like, it's not like it's all 100% sales. And like I don't know. It's again, it's so weird. Like you said, you can't make everyone happy. It's impossible. Someone will always get upset with stuff, but they are selling stuff. They are producing things. It's not like they've completely stopped and all they're doing is just collab drops. It may look like that, but I mean, shit, dude, they're not a huge manufacturer. They're a smaller, in the grand scheme of things, they're kind of a smaller outlet. And that's kind of the reason why they cost a little bit more. That's why, it's I like them because I feel like they kind of fit the same mantra of a lot of the other things that I agree with and believe in. They're kind of retro. They do things a little bit differently. I consider them kind of more of like that. They've been around for a while, but they're kind of almost, I don't want to say new edge but they're keeping up with the times, I guess, is maybe a way of putting
absolutely.
It, And
and they're a little off kilter too. They're not normal, like, what Corey refers to as the Midwest, people. Like they're just a little different, which is cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Like yeah, and I agree. Like I don't want someone to, it adds a lot more personality behind. And I'm friends with a couple of those guys over there, and it's kind of wild because some of them I've just kind of accidentally run into and conversated with, and then I find out who where they are. I'm like, it makes sense. Super nice, and just great dudes from from someone who answers the phone to some of the guys that are in the shop, and then some guys who do the testing. And then Lorena's awesome too, and I've chatted with her. They're just they're all just super down to earth, which I think is one thing as well. But they don't take everything so seriously. It kind of just holds still with everything else, and it's refreshing in my opinion. It's refreshing that it's not like everything's not. Get your cry pants on, get your cry shirt on. We're doing a shoot in a shoot house. And
they had a deal with I think it was I if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I think it was a picture of Tough Ass Tat, and he was shooting a Space Invader, I think it was, when it first released, and it was like a picture of him, and he's got tattoos like up his neck, and there was all these people that were like, I don't know what kind of base like Noveski thinks they're pandering to with this. Like, they're pandering to some like left wing, liberal art, something. And it was like, dude, not everybody wears like a freaking polo shirt every day and like khaki slacks and does the same stuff you do. And that's something that people miss. Like, just because you don't have tattoos doesn't mean that you don't have a lot in common with that person. Like, you got that typical like mentality of like, oh, if you have a man bun, you must be some loser. And that's not the case at all. Like, I mean, that dude with neck tattoos probably shoots a whole lot better than you do, and does a whole lot of other things better than you do. And if you don't like neck tattoos, that's fine, but he's not forcing you to get one. And people just get so mad about that stuff, and it's like, I don't know. I've even commented on some of those threads on Noveski's posts, and it's like, there's so many bummed out dudes that are so mad about something that literally has nothing to do with them. Like, I don't know why they're so upset about that stuff.
It's, again, man, it's so weird. Like, I don't know. It's like you can't tout for things like freedom and blah 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 all the time, and then sit there and then critique and be super critical of other guys.
Right.
It's such a weird. It's so weird, man. It's super frustrating too. But that's kind of again, that kind of comes back. It kind of loops back around to the fact of, like, I really appreciate the fact that places like them are kind of more in that, newer style, and they're not kind of getting, they're not just staying in the same feel. Like, they're not just staying stagnant and doing the same and pumping the same. They're trying to do something to, keep up. And, I don't want to say they're trying to stay relevant. Everyone has to, at some point, you have to stay relevant. That's a business. That's what it is. But, they are just, they're seeing what's in front of them, and they're all kind of like just doing things with people of similar personalities, backgrounds, and styling. And I think that's cool. I like it.
Adapter guy, man.
Exactly.
And that's, I hate freaking TikTok. I'm only 29, and I hate TikTok because of just the stigma that's around it and stupid people getting famous. But TikTok is the new social media. That's what, there's a girl that works in our shop, and she's our customer service girl. So if you email us and you talk to Kinsey, that's her. She's super cool, but she's 21. And I asked her one day, I was like, have you heard this song? And I can't remember what song it was. And she said, I don't know. Is it on TikTok? And I was like,
jeez.
Like, but that's where things are going. And it's like, if you want to be relevant, Instagram is still very much relevant, but if you want to follow the curve, you're eventually going to have to figure out, if you're a marketing guy for a company, you're going to have to figure out how to use TikTok. And that's what you're going to have to migrate to, because that's where people are at. And that's another thing that frustrates me so much about more people talking about Noveski and saying incredibly disrespectful things about Johnny and just like where the brand is now. And I didn't know Johnny Noveski. I never even met the guy. He might have even died when I was like a kid. I don't remember. But from what I've seen and heard of him through different people that knew him and their podcasts and things of that nature, like, from what I gather, he would be pretty stoked about what they're doing now. And people are like, oh, Johnny would be so like disappointed in you guys. And, he wasn't about this and that. And you're using his name to sell water guns and just all this different stuff. And it's like, from what I gather from him, he would be pretty stoked about the things they're doing. And it's just a growing thing. You can't just do the same stuff you've always done, or else you'll fall behind, and you'll just be old, man. You'll be some old angry person doing the same stuff.
And same thing, because times are changing, and so is the mentality, and especially with the ownership and the people who are owning guns. You're not going to have the same type of people who have been owning guns in the next 20 years. It'll be a little bit different, especially from what we've seen. Totally. Yeah. So if you don't get with the times, and I don't know. Again, I agree. Stuff like that is kind of like, I don't know, like you can mumble that if you want to, you and your buddies who have the same opinion, but man, don't be posting shit like that. That's so disrespectful. And like you said, I agree, because the guys seem like from all same as you. I'm the same age. I think, we're the same age. So, in that mindset, the dude seemed like he was pretty, I don't want to say whack. I don't mean like wacky, but like, dude, he was just kind of like, dude, he was just he was a hip dude, like, So
he was a wild man.
Yeah. So it's not like he's like your typical same era of thought, it's like, it seems like he was in that same realm of what they're doing, and he'd be pretty stoked for the things they are offering. And by all things considered, I don't know, like every gun shop will have like some issues and stuff like that. But Noveski, every time I've called, dude, I've always had someone answer the phone. I'll put it like that. I've never had an issue where I'm like, damn, I can't get in touch with anybody over there. I've never had that problem. Yeah. They have always been great.
They had a Space Invader. We had a customer that had a Space Invader that like was having ejection problems or something, which, anybody that deals with guns knows that someone says, "Oh, my gun's jamming." Okay, well, what's it doing? And then they say, "Well, it won't eject." Okay, well, there's like a million different things that could make it not eject. It could be your ammunition. It could be whatever. He sent this gun back to Noveski, I think 3 times. And every single time they changed his ejector, they changed his bolt, they changed like all this stuff. They looked it over, they inspected his trigger, and he was still not satisfied with it because he kept claiming it's doing the same thing. And they continued to take this gun back every single time. And it was like, to me, that's pretty valiant of them to honor that and be like, hey, it's our gun, so, we'll fix it if something's wrong with it. And really, I don't think anything was wrong with it, but they just continued to take it back because that's what he wanted them to do. And so they did that. I think that was pretty cool because I don't really feel like they owed him that at all.
No. Yeah. And again, just going out of their way to try and at least do right, by just get it squared away and get it set up. But I don't know, man. Some guys are weird. Like I said, some guys are weird, dude. Some guys are fucking weird.
People are crazy, man.
And people are crazy, and especially in this industry, in this like this field of people. And sometimes, oh man, I don't know. It's weird, man. It's wild.
It's the same solution. I think in a lot of things, it's just like if everybody would just chill out, like just calm down.
Yeah,
chill out, man.
Dude, yeah.
Let things go.
I know everything takes everything so seriously and freaks out and stuff, and that's the good thing about places like people like Noveski's. Like I said, they'll make things right. Like I had one of my orders that hadn't received, and honestly, like I just knew their stuff was so backlogged. And this was a while back. They allowed me to pre-order, not pre-order, but like back order something, and it was like just a small part. I mean, it wasn't a big deal, and I was like, dude, I'm not even worried about the wait time. I just appreciate you. Let me, taking care of it, and no worries. And, I think some time passed, and at some point I was like, I wonder what the status is on that. It had been a couple months, and went and checked, and it acted like it had been processed and had already shipped and received, and gave him a call. Literally by, I think within 24 hours, everything was squared away, and they had sent me the replacement one. They had one out the door to me, just because they knew that, I was waiting or whatever. And dude, like, I don't know, stuff like that. But, just being able to answer the phone, I think to me is still a huge aspect, like having questions or anything like that. I can tell you right now, some of the big industry, folks, if you give them a call right now, you're going to go to a voicemail, especially like during COVID stuff. You're not going to be able to get anyone on the phone, but I've had super good luck with Noveski. And I love my rifle. I get compliments with it all the fucking time. Shooting it, just in general, the balance of it just feels great. So yeah, they're definitely my books as a long time supporter of it. I'll definitely probably end up getting another one at some point.
I've convinced a lot of people to buy Noveski. And again, if they're listening, I'm your number one salesman. We had a guy come in the other day. Actually he bought a LaRue, whatever rifle, the Predator or ORP or whatever, and he had it transferred through us. Like he didn't buy it from us; he bought it from LaRue, like $3,000 or something.
Yeah, the OBOs are expensive, dude.
Yeah, and I was like, why'd you buy a LaRue or whatever? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I was laying in bed one night and ended up buying it. So, anyways, long story short, I convinced him to buy a Noveski 14.5, and he left with Noveski 14.5, like an ACOG and some other stuff, like $5,000, and then he left the LaRue at the shop, and it's for sale. It's on consignment. So it's like, dude, Noveski is the way, man.
Yeah, and I won't say anything either, because I mean, some of those LaRue guns are actually pretty top-notch guns. Like they're pretty nice guns, but at the same time, I know that there's been some times that they're expensive, and two, there's generally a pretty extended wait time for those things too.
Yeah, he waited I think he waited a month or so for it. And that gun particularly is actually a nice gun, that LaRue, but that's just my testament to how much I like Noveski, and I think it's a superior rifle. I really like what they do.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Well, let's see here. We'll go ahead and start tidying it up a little bit, because I know you got shit you got to do, man. But so with Bauer Precision, you guys offer, you guys got guns, suppressors, a actually aesthetically clean and modernized website, all kinds of stuff you guys have on there. You already just piped up about some possible Black Friday sales coming up. Seems like you guys have a pretty busy year ahead and a bunch of shit coming through, dude.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have Black Friday sales, of course, but we typically do sales for we'll do like a daily deal or something to that effect. And then we'll do like, for most major holidays, we do deals, and then we'll do like suppressor Saturdays occasionally, and we'll sell, it's some pretty good deals of late. We had like some Q silencers, you get a free tax stamp, and Surefire, Silencer Co., stuff like that. We'll do some deals on some of that stuff, but yeah, Black Friday should be pretty good this year. I've got to work on that in the next few weeks, but that should be pretty good. And then some good things coming down the pipe. So
very cool, very cool. And I think your Instagram on there is it's actually just literally Bauer Precision too. So it's at BAUER Precision, PRECISION. I cannot believe I spelled that correctly without fucking it up.
yeah.
And then I was pretty impressed with myself, to be honest. And so you check them out, and you guys have a nice, good, clean page too. Like that's definitely the way of the beast these days too. So you have to have a clean page. Yeah, we just
recently redid it. So I've been taking photos for it, and then we also have another guy, Will Choi. He used to work for Dude Perfect, and he's one of our guys now. So he does a lot of the photos for it. Speaking of photos, I got a shout out page. It's Dirty Kid, DRTY.kid. And that's kind of where me and a friend of mine, we dump all of our photos of night shoots and videos. And all
cool.
Stupid, mediocre garbage. I'm sure we'll sell some t-shirts, have some slaps and goofy stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to follow some of our night shooting shenanigans with A-Gans and Cutthroat and all those guys, it's all on there.
Yeah, that's I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, cool, dude. And then your handle on Instagram is underwater hot dog. There is an underscore between underwater and hot dog, just to be clean. I had to say it. I had to say it once. So before we do go ahead and end it and stuff, where the hell did the name underwater hot dog come from? There's got to be some kind of reason.
I made it up. It means nothing.
Bullshit. Come on.
Literally. No, I'm serious, man. I've had a lot of people ask me, like, is it like sexual or is it? And I'm like, no, dude. It's just I saw a guy with a name like Hot Dog one time, and then I thought of like, I don't know. I've always thought when people shouted out other people, like, go check out my homie, like whatever his name is, like something about a hot dog, just like was funny to me, and I was like underwater hot dog, and then it just kind of stuck, and like A-Gans and all of those guys, they call me Soggy, because when I was first introduced to the group, I was introduced as like Soggy Dog or something to that extent, because of like a soggy hot dog, and so now it's just like they don't even call me by my name, they all just call me Soggy. So it's kind of where that took off. But yeah, it literally means nothing. I'm just an idiot that came up with it.
When I first saw it, the first thing I thought of was hot dog water. I don't know. I guess just like I just saw.
Yeah.
And I was like, when I saw it, because it just had water hot, and I was like dyslexic. I'm fucking dyslexia as fuck. I saw hot dog water, and I was like, oh, hot dog water. I was like, oh, that's pretty fucking funny. And like that was the first thing. But I mean, like, dude, you had me at hot dog, to be quite honest. I don't even like hot dogs, but I was like, okay, he has to have a sense of humor if his name is fucking underwater hot dog. So
yeah, we were actually designing some like stickers, some slaps. It was like a pot on a stove with two like hot dogs floating.
Dude, I'll have to send you a couple of sketches I did a while back, and they were all like really shitty. They were supposed to be kind of shitty, and it was like a hot dog with like really kind of creepy, kind of like just fucking chilling. Like there was some really shitty glasses on. He looks like your typical like single uncle who hits on everybody in Miami with white sunglasses on. Like think of that, if that's descriptive enough. Like that's like the mindset. And like he had like the gloves and shit, like the white gloves and the fucking white glasses, just super like Yeah. So just letting you know that down deep south water.
I discovered Procreate on my iPad, and so now I'm on the Photoshop game, and most of my stuff is stupid, and I just make memes or whatever. And I was like, what am I gonna do with all this? And then my buddy was like, you should just make like stickers out of all of it. So like I've made some stickers for the shop. We did like
that's awesome.
Ham from the Sandlot. Instead of a bat, he has like a rocket launcher, like an NT4 or AT4, and then just some different goofy stuff. We did some stuff with the Joe Biden, with his hands clenched, like he put like corn dogs in his hand. He had like a big foam cowboy hat on, it's like State Fair Joe, and stuff like that. And it's like I make it, and I'm at home, and then I show my wife, and she looks at me like, "What is wrong with you?" And then I'm like, "This is really funny." But I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Like, what am I supposed to do with it? It's just funny. Nobody's going to buy this.
Too funny, man. All right, man. Well, hey, I appreciate it again. And if we'll do one more quick little shout out to make sure there's no one else we missed. So everyone can follow Blake over at underwater_hotdog. And of course, he works over at Bauer Precision, all the cool stuff and everything like that. I'll definitely be keeping my eyes out there, especially during Black Friday and stuff, especially for whenever I decide to go ahead and get another RC2 as well. So check out their site. It's super clean, super updated again. I don't get paid for that. I'm just looking at it as we've been chatting and just looking at how it's a nice, clean website. So just saying that. And as well as check out their Instagram, which is at Bauer Precision. And anything else, my man? Anywhere? I
don't think so, man. Yeah. I appreciate you having me on. I'm just I'm just a nobody that we connected over Instagram, which is cool, and that's kind of how I've made all the friends I've made.
100%. Yeah.
So all the thoughts and opinions are literally just that. It's just opinions, and I'm a nobody. So
well, that's a fun thing too.
Take it too seriously.
Well, as I tell other people is obviously there's always going to be frustrations like with social media and all the things that surround it and the people who are running it and stuff. But in the same breath, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to say that you really hate it because you get to connect with a bunch of cool folks that otherwise you would never in a million years know. That's I think the cool part of it. Being able to just literally just get pinged by you just because I saw your name and I thought it was fucking hilarious. And then someone connecting like, oh, you should do a podcast. And I was like, yeah, fuck it. Let's do it. So, it's just cool. Like being able to have some kind of connection and being able to just do stuff. And again, thank you so much for dedicating your morning and your early afternoon to jumping on and especially your day. And dude, again, thank you so much. And we'll go and we'll wrap it up.
All right, man. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. All right.